Hi, Joan.
Hi, I'm trying to count how many people are on.
Oh, you're on mute, Joan.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
You're on
He's
mute.
I can hear you.
Okay, thanks.
All right, so far so good. No echoes and everything.
Wow, okay.
We made a lot of progress on this.
We have.
Am I audible?
Don't say too much yet.
You sure are. Yep.
Knock on wood.
Oh, you're on.
Yeah, you can hear me? Okay,
You sound good.
I'll mute.
Hey, Nancy.
Yeah. Want me to start?
Yeah, let's get rolling.
Okay. I'll call the June 17th, 2020 Franklin Township Board of Supervisors meeting to order at 7 p.m. In attendance via Zoom are Supervisors McVeigh, Auerbach, D, and Gerstenhaber. Also in attendance is Solicitor Mark Thompson, Township Manager Joan McFaul, Assistant Township Manager Jeff Eastburn, Secretary Sharon Norris, and Harb Committee Chair Paul Lagasse. Have I missed any chairs other than Paul? Isn't everyone else on? Okay. All right, public comment. Mary, I guess that's yours to read.
Okay. This public comment is for anything relating to items on tonight's agenda. The last public comment is for items not on tonight's agenda. It's important to state your name clearly for the tape so that your comments can be reflected accurately. Please state whether you are a township resident or a township taxpayer. If you're using YouTube, you must type in your name and address before your comment will be recognized. Any comments?
Yes, I have one.
Okay.
The name is Brent Van Lith. I'm a resident of Franklin Township.
Hi, Brent.
And a couple years ago, we had a pretty serious issue on the Cavender Lane, at the end of Cavender Lane and Walker Road, where water was leaking out of the roadway throughout the whole winter. And the road iced over, was continued to ice over, and nothing's been done about it. And I was wondering what was going to happen.
Well, Jim, are you aware of that? I think we have Jim Dorazio on the call. Or Jeff, are you guys aware of that problem?
I have to admit, Nancy, I wasn't able to hear Brent fully.
It's been ongoing. It started with McCormick Taylor with that. We had done some improvements on the property adjacent to that. The water table's moved and it's been in discussion. I'm not sure where we want to go.
If anyone who is not speaking, can you all mute your mics? Because there were some things where we're getting a lot of feedback. Yeah, and I think from what I understand, the initial problem, I think the township tried to rectify it a couple of years ago, Brent. If you remember, there was a construction that was done. They put in a drainage ditch and a drain to divert some of the water. And so what I'm hearing now is that, and that was pretty extensive. I think we had to buy some of the property off the farm owner in order to start diverting.
It's funny, David, and you do drive on this road, so you might remember that last winter season, after the pond was constructed and everything was constructed, there was still water seeping up through that intersection,
Right,
and icing it completely over.
yeah. So that is something that we'll have to look at other options then to rectify.
Brent, do you have any thoughts on it?
Do I have any what?
Thoughts?
Well, you have a high water table and it's seeping up through the subbase. And in order to get the water from seeping up, you have to have some kind of drainage put in, but nothing's been done. So, you know, one of the things that I was told was that roads were going to be a huge improvement, and I haven't seen anything.
Brent, this is Jeff Eastburn. I'm sitting next to Joan here. I'm sure you can see that. And I believe you're correct, and Jim can either back me up or correct me, but that was due to a high water table and the road seeping at that point. So that was a problem that we had this past year.
Yeah.
But a large majority of that problem was resolved because staff reached out to Scott Wilkinson, and he donated that area and his time and equipment. And we worked with the conservation district to make that detention pond. And then Jim used his skills to put that pipe underneath the road across to the other side. But that is one of those troublesome areas that we do keep an eye on, that Jim and I are aware of.
Yeah, and what's interesting, sorry, we're going to talk about this later in the afternoon about really, my focus is to do a better job with our roads. And, we just had our road meeting on Friday. I was not part of the road analysis. We didn't have any third-party road analysis done. And so later on today, we're going to talk about exactly what you're saying, which is do a better job analyzing these problems. Because quite frankly, Brent, I got a list of roads, and our road, you and I, the road that we drive on every day, wasn't on that list, right? And so the first question is, well, why? You know, if this has been an ongoing problem through the entire previous administration, why are we still struggling with it? And so I'm with you, Brent. I think that we should spend a lot more time doing third-party analysis on these roads so we get better information. So thank you for bringing it up. I appreciate it.
If you weren't on the roads meeting, who was, if I may ask?
No, we were on the roads meeting on Friday. I was there, but your road wasn't mentioned on the list. Our road wasn't mentioned on that list as a problem road.
I'm sorry, who was in the meeting?
All of the,
Yeah, all the board, Brent, the board was in the meeting, but I think what Dave is saying is the roads that came to us to discuss, those were done outside of the Board of Supervisors, which is fine. That's what we pay people for. But we just want to make sure that we didn't miss something. We might have missed your problem. So later on tonight, we are going to talk about roads. And although we don't have enough information right now, we can just put a placeholder that says there's a problem there, and we may have to solve that.
We're going to make yeah, I got it. We're going to talk about the roads, and I've got a proposal that I want to put forward on how we approach those problems, Brent, because I think we might have a prioritization issue, right? If, you know, I personally, I didn't notice the icing issue on that section of the road. That doesn't excuse it just because I didn't notice it. But if it is that much of a problem and we missed it because we have bad analysis, then we need to fix our analysis before we do any road work. So thank you for bringing it up. It really helps illustrate what I've been trying to say for the last few weeks on these road works.
Any other public comments? Okay, then John, we'll let you take it from here.
I make a motion to approve the May 20th, 2020 version 2 meeting minutes as presented by the Township Secretary.
I'll second.
Seconded by Nancy. Are there any discussions, corrections, or upgrades to the minutes as presented? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say nay. Motion carries 5-0.
Okay.
Donna?
I think you're on mute, Donna.
Donna, can you hear us?
No, I think, isn't Dave next on the list? He is on mine.
Mine says Donna. All right.
Oh, okay.
I don't know, I'll just read it. I make a motion that the Board of Supervisors adopt resolution 2020-14 regarding the disposition of records for the Board of Supervisors meeting of May 20th, 2020, and the Planning Commission meeting of March 5th, 2020. Seconded by?
I'll second that.
Okay, seconded by Dave. Discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed say nay. Okay, motion carries 5-0.
All right, hold on. Stop. Donna's waving her hands. We can't hear you, Donna.
She has no microphone on. I see no microphone for her.
Yeah, you might have to put your audio on, Donna.
Or your phone's on mute. There you go.
Donna,
You can hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, because I didn't do anything. Okay, good. Okay, thanks.
The phone's just deciding. Okay. So Donna, do you want to take the next one?
I'm not, it's fine, you can keep on going, Dave. It's not a big deal. I just
Okay.
didn't want to be left without talking for the whole meeting. Go ahead, you go, Dave. I'll
Okay.
pick up the next one when it's my turn.
Okay. I make a motion that the board approve the May treasurer's report, which includes the following disbursements. The general fund with disbursements and transfers of $88,585.33. The Park and Recreation Fund with disbursements of $9,466.67. The Open Space Fund with disbursements of $6,330.74. The Emergency Services Fund with disbursements of $2,425.96. And the Fire Hydrant Fund with disbursements of $580.80, leaving a balance in all funds totaling $1,350,089.63. Seconded by.
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, I'm going to cover the zoning officer's report. In the month of May, 4 permits were issued. $650 in building fees was collected and $750 in miscellaneous fees was collected. No recreation, open space, or impact fees were collected. There were 19 inspections performed. There are 3 zoning issues currently being addressed by the zoning officer. Joan, is there anything you want to say about that?
Well, I'll just give you a little bit of an update. The issue for 1833 New London Road was for high grass, and that property has been taken over by the bank. So we're trying to find out who to contact at the bank to have them mow the grass. The other issue, 126 Carriage Run, was the resident was burning trash, which is not allowed. So we sent a letter telling him to cease that. And then 4 Duncan Lane, that owner was notified about an overgrowth of bamboo coming from his property and extending into his neighbor's property, which is not allowed by our ordinance. So he needs to address that because it has to be 10 feet off the property line.
Joan, any update on 3327 Appleton Road? I mean, that's been an eyesore for a while. We know we talked about I don't know, whatever you do when somebody messes up, citing the person.
We can recite or reissue violations. I was waiting for Jeff Vogels to come back because he is very familiar with that. And we also need the courts to be open because, we will be going to court again, the district court, when that happens.
Joan, remind us of how that ended the last time we were in court with him.
He heard it at a higher court, and Mark can correct me on this if I misspeak, that he was ordered to pay his fine. It was reduced a little bit, but he was ordered to pay the fine. He did not win. So he continues to give us sometimes $7 a month or, sometimes $20 a month towards his fine.
So how much does he owe us?
Dave, I believe it was $500 or $700 from the last time he was in court.
I think Donna's right. We should recite him.
Yeah, and it's just so much how much he owes us, though I think it's a reasonable question, David. It's how do we move the process along to fix it up or whatever needs to be done. It's just your heart goes out to neighbors.
Yeah, is this something that we can just start fining him $500 a day until he gets his act together? Anybody?
I think we have to follow I think there's a process we have to follow.
Let me jump in. Yeah, we have been in some discussions with his attorney about, he's got an approved subdivision and he wants to take some action on that subdivision and use the money in order to fix the house up. We have had those discussions. since the COVID-19, I can tell you we have not been engaged in those discussions, but we can certainly circle back with his current counsel and also move forward with further citations. So I think it's just been a little bit of a lull at this point. We did win the last action. We did amend the ordinance as well. So we should be able to renew that effort at this point.
Yeah, that's a great reminder, Mark, that we rewrote the ordinance to be able to hold his feet to the fire a little more successfully. So thanks for that reminder.
It seems like we've been talking about this for this guy, and it's about time that we figure out a way to get something done here if we can.
No, it has been, the enforcement is very difficult. The courts in this case moved very slow. So we haven't had the court system in effect for basically the last 3 months. So we will get, I'll talk to Jonah, getting that moving again.
Thanks, Mark. And Mary, I think, any other comments on that? Okay, Mary, you're next.
Is there someone from the Planning Commission who can give us a report on the June 4th virtual PC meeting? If so,
Yeah, Brent is
speak
on.
up. Who's on? Brent? Brent, can you give us a report?
I didn't really prepare for a report. I don't have the minutes in front of me.
Okay.
Well, I can say that we at a high level we reviewed some plans for bringing in a new automobile business, 896. This process is ongoing. We gave him a preliminary pass, and he will return next month with some more details on his plans, particularly around asphalting the parking lot space. There's some issues with parking and ground coverage, so we offered some alternatives, potential ideas for him to follow. So he will be moving ahead with that and coming back to the Planning Commission next month.
Okay. Any other comments on this? Okay, John, you want to take the next item?
Yes, Chairman Paul Agassi will report on this month's Harbor Historical Commission virtual meeting. Take it away, Paul.
Thank you, John. The Historical and Architectural Review Board and the Historical Commission had a combined meeting on June 2nd, and there were several items on the agenda. First up was the historic cemeteries in the township. It had been brought to my attention that there had been some, I guess you could call it desecration of the cemetery at Flint Hill. Some stones were not where they should have been. And that was from Jeff Eastburn. We know we have an ongoing problem at Church Hill that is not, that we can make the things neater there, but we do have to do research into whether the cemetery is considered abandoned. And we have a third cemetery that isn't truly abandoned. That's Mount Olivet. I believe the McVaugh family still has trusteeship of that, Joan. Does Chuck's son inherit the trusteeship?
It was turned over to Chuck when his father died.
Yeah, okay. So, but we feel we need to develop some sort of, at least sort of follow these things generally, and perhaps develop an appropriate course of action and come back and discuss it with the board of supervisors at some point, but we're not ready to do that yet. We then moved on to the historic resources map and simply noted that our corrections had been passed on to the County Planning Commission, and we're awaiting that. There were only a handful of corrections, so that should be final next time around. I don't expect anything unusual. Then we reviewed our historical talks for the upcoming year. Our May talk was canceled and that's been shifted to September. We'll see whether we can hold it or not. So we're playing that by ear a little bit. Looking forward, when we discuss new business, we would typically have an election day table. In November, we like to get out there if the weather is nice, since nobody likes to stand out in the rain, and just make contact with residents and offer them historic information. But I suspect that we will not do that this year, no matter what the weather, just because of the situation going forward is uncertain. We also elected, effective July 1st, a new secretary for the HARB. Tracy Schreiner will be leaving the HARB soon. They're selling their house and they'll be moving out of the township. And so Liz Randby was elected to succeed Tracy. We also talked briefly about the comprehensive plan. We actually have, because of various overlaps, we have 2 members on our boards who are also members of the task force, Chuck Phillips and Nan Latimer. And we need to see to it that the township history has some corrections made to it, which is a fairly straightforward process. And we also talked about promoting walkable village as part of the going forward for the plan for the township. Finally, we discussed our annual report, which we're behind on. And I hope to have something in hand for the next time we meet. So we'll be a little later than usual with that. We usually like to have that approved in April. But the general weather, shall we say, has not been cooperating. And lastly, I would just like to note that I met via Zoom with London Britain's Historical Atlas Committee. They've restarted their historical commission, and prior to the whole COVID thing, I was planning to make it a habit to attend their historical commission meetings, and that got thrown for a loop, but I'm going to start attending the Zoom meetings if I can, when they're held. They tend to be held on a Tuesday morning, which is not always convenient for me because I'm working. But with a Zoom meeting, it's a little easier to make time for it. So that's it for my report. Thank you.
Should I move on, Nancy?
Yeah, thanks, Donna, and thanks, Paul.
Okay, great. I'll move on to the next motion. We're in the business section. So this is our new business. I make a motion that the Board of Supervisors accept the proposal from the General Code for an editorial and legal analysis and supplement number 5 to the Code of Ordinances at a cost not to exceed $6,425. And just to provide some context, we talked about this last month. And I know I or all of us asked Joan if we could go back and find out if there was any grant money for this. And I noted, Joan, that in the package that you provided us, the way I read it is that not necessarily that there's no money to do the analysis, but maybe there's some money available to do the update. At least that's how I read it. Particularly if you can link it to maybe a comprehensive plan type update or some kind of policy change that causes you to do this. Am I characterizing it correctly, Joan?
Yes, you are.
Okay. So I just wanted to put that out there. So please, discussion, comments?
Well, we need a second. I'll be happy to second it.
Okay. Thank you, Nancy.
Yeah, you know, we had, so I'm sorry, I just jumped in. I don't know if we want to people around the horn or not on this conversation, but since I jumped in. I looked through the packet, and you know, after reading what this offer is and what these people do, I think it's important to get this done for our township. You know, I think that we should have clear and consistent policies, and our ordinance should be clear and consistent. You know, and I think when we talked about it last month, you know, I didn't have all the information in front of me. So, and now it seems make a lot more sense to me. And so I'm glad we took this time, one, for me to kind of digest this stuff. But I think that the benefit, you know, outweighs the $6,000 that we'll spend on getting this done. Particularly if we can help us prevent, you know, awkward wording, improve some of our ordinances around, you know, particularly this use on Appleton Road that we've been talking about. You know, having things clearer and consistent are important. You know.
Joe, can you clarify? I guess I thought from our last meeting that it's a double cost. There's a cost to do the first analysis, which was like around $2,000, and then there's another cost for the $64.25 to do the actual, you need to change this and put this here kind of assessment.
Can I jump in, Joan? You gave me a great explanation today of these costs and what it cost us last time. Can you explain to everybody what a bargain this is?
Okay, normally we codify our new ordinances once a year, and Sharon assembles them and sends them off to general code, and they'll work them into our existing ordinances and give us new sheets to replace in the blue books. So that runs between the 1,400 to 1,800, the numbers you see here in your book. So if we have them do the analysis, that codification is included in that 64.25. So they will codify all our new ordinances and work them into the existing ordinances and then do the analysis for us.
Thank you.
So I would just like to add a comment, and then we'll make sure we hear from everyone. But I asked the other day, I said to Joan, I think we have too much going on. You know, I don't think this could be a priority. And Joan explained to me that this really does not take the township staff's time to do. Now, just as a reminder, this is step one. And then after they do that analysis, then we can seek grants to get the actual changes made. So it's a two-step process, just so everyone's aware of that. But I would be in favor of it.
I don't think we've heard from John.
Yeah, I'm opposed to the expense. I think it's a low value function, and I don't think it contributes a whole lot to the township. As a resident or a taxpayer, I would not see any significant benefit to this. I'd sooner put the money into something else. So my vote would be no.
Okay, so we heard from Donna. Did you have anything to add?
I'm on the fence, so that's why I'm asking all the questions, because I think it needs to be done, right? And I do thank Joan again for sending out the packet, because it was clear for me that there is considerable work done for the $6,000, where they are providing a good analysis and directing you towards a solution, which I thought was a positive. The fact that it's not $2,000 plus $6,000 makes me feel better, so that's kind of on the yes side. But I do worry about, and I don't know where this will come up in today's meeting. We have to talk about the bridge, and the bridge could cost us an extra $100,000. I don't know whether we have this money, and you know, I don't know. So I think if we had the money, it would be worthwhile. I just worry about our budget. I'll just leave it there. So
Joan, you're the treasurer. Can you talk a little bit about the budget and where we will fall if we have to pay for the bridge?
The bridge, if we have to pay for the bridge, I would make the suggestion that it comes from the capital account. We did put in a call to PennDOT today to see if any of the liquid fuel money can be used for that, but at this point, I don't know. But that could be another option, but if not, then we would have to the best place would be the capital account.
Thanks, Joan. All right, Mary, do you have any thoughts?
I think it's something, it's not a huge amount of money. And I think it's something we need to do because obviously we have problems. I just hope when they do the analysis it's not that expensive what we have to do. But I think we need to do the analysis and then go from there.
I guess it's kind of like, do you pay someone to go check if your roof needs to be replaced, right? You know,
Yeah.
or whatever. You're not going to know if you have to actually do the work until you have someone analyze the problem. And right
Except
now,
we kind of know, Dave, they're kind of a mess. You see when Joan's book with all those tabs?
No,
So
I
we do know,
understand.
we have an issue.
I understand, but there's just, right. So I'm not disagreeing, I'm agreeing. I'm saying, look, you got to do some analysis to figure out where you're at, right? And the
Right.
analysis isn't free.
And Joan, have we ever had this done, or when was the last time it was done?
Nancy, as far as I know, since I've been here and Jeff can shake his head yes or no, I don't think it's ever, analysis has never been.
Not
Okay.
So,
eons.
So should we vote, or, I know Donna, you're leading this.
So
Do you have any other discussion? Maybe that's the
yes,
question.
yes, I agree. Any other discussion? If not, we should vote. Anybody else? So, I'll put the motion on the table. So all in favor, say aye. I'll say aye.
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 Okay, all against, say nay.
Today, I'm opposed to it because I believe it's a low value function.
Okay. It carries,
Then
5-1, right? Or 4-1?
4-1.
4-1.
So next we have plan of operation for office reopening discussion. So there's no motion offered here. This is really just a discussion to help Joan and the rest of us understand how to reopen the township offices as we move to green. So I'll start the discussion pretty plainly. You know, I think as soon as the Chester County goes green, we should open the offices, provided that we can operate within CDC guidelines, implementing appropriate social distancing guidelines and mask usage for residents who come in, similar to any other business that is operating now in the township. My one add would be, and this is really maybe for the staff to talk about, is if residents are going to be coming in and out of the office, do we invest in some plexiglass shields for the desks so people can stand on the opposite sides of the plexiglass, so you don't have to be, you know, interacting directly with residents, which would be the only, I think, addition we would need to consider. Go around the horn, I guess. Donna?
I totally agree with everything you said. So no other comments.
Mary?
I agree with you said too, Dave. I think we should wait till Chester County says we're green and then go by the CDC requirements. And there's no downside to putting a plexiglass sheet up in front of the desk. It's just another precaution. So yeah, I kind of think that's the way we should go forward. And if the staff feels like they need more precautions, they certainly can come to us.
Nancy?
Yeah, I totally agree. My only caveat is I would ask Joan, Jeff, and Sharon how they feel about the plexiglass sheet.
I was going to give them the last word.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, that creates kind of a separation with our community. But if you feel safety, it's important, then we'll leave it to you guys. Otherwise,
John?
yes.
John?
David, well said. I agree with what you agreed to. Once it goes green, we could open up and follow CDC. I think the plexiglass field ought to be staffed and evaluated or not.
All right, Joan, Jeff, Sharon, if you're still in the room.
Sharon's shaking her head to the screen. She doesn't want it.
Okay.
You know, I'm in my office more or less by myself, so I'm okay. What do you think?
I'm certainly fine with it. You know, I just think we need to keep hand sanitizer on hand.
So I
and
think the
masks.
person who interacts with folks the most is Sharon, yes? Is there, you know, what could we do to make her feel more comfortable?
I think maybe encouraging residents.
Well, businesses are basically doing, oh, go ahead, Joan.
One of the things that we've talked about here, and it's in the summary that was in the meeting book, is that asking, at least for a while, that residents make appointments. Because sometimes people will come to see the zoning officer, and there are times there could be 2 or 3 people waiting for him. So if we could say, make an appointment and wait out in the car until it's your turn to come in, I think that would help a lot. And even if somebody is coming in to see one of us, if we know who is coming, then we could be ready.
So how about we do this? Maybe this would be a better idea. We assume we keep things as they are until the July meeting. And in that time, maybe the staff, Sharon, Jeff, and Joan kind of come up with how you would like to operate. And then, so we can implement those changes at the next meeting.
Yeah, my only concern is I think some residents, for the short term, it seems like a good idea to just put a notice on the front door that says, visit by appointment only, put the phone number, and that way you can kind of manage it, Joan and Sharon and Jeff, rather than have no contact.
Yeah, I guess that would work too. I mean, I like the appointment idea. It'd be very easy to implement, alert the township that this is how we're going to be doing business. And then and a lot of places, I mean, at least where I work too, we kind of rolled out opening up, right? So we did the appointment, so you don't just get a big rush of people. So, starting off with appointment only works, I think. Any other comments on that, John?
Yeah, some clarification. So we started off the discussion by talking about keeping the office closed until it went green. So I think we've moved beyond that, right? We want to talk about what do we do with the yellow period? Am I following the discussion?
I thought we were talking about when we go green. How would we operate when we go green?
So then the conversation seemed to switch to now people can make appointments. So maybe a little clarity. Are we saying when it goes green, people can make appointments? Okay.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Let's have a discussion. Let's have the staff kind of work on a full plan, because and then once we get to green, we know exactly what they're going to do. Like plexiglass shields on the desks, and do we have masks available?
Yes.
Yeah. That kind of stuff.
John, do you
That's a
have
big
predictions of that?
Pardon?
John, you've been up on that. Do you have any predictions of when it might go green?
No, not really. I mean, Chester County's been slow for sure.
Yeah.
It's really up to the governor. So I think we ought to wait for green, just as David said. I guess the only question I got for Joan is related to Jeff Ogles. Is he planning to come back in there when we go green, or?
It's my understanding that he plans to come back. Right now, he's been furloughed by LTL because he was a part-time employee, and Paul Lake has been covering for him. So if we say that we want to start having office hours and have residents come in and speak to the zoning officer, either Paul Lake will be here or they will bring Jeff Ogles back.
Okay, I would strongly hope that we could tell LTL we really prefer Jeff to come back. He's been a real asset to our township. So if there's any hesitation at all by LTL, we ought to at least know about it.
Is there a way? I mean, when he does come back, if he's not comfortable coming into the office, we can set up Zoom meetings with residents if they want to interact with Jeff. These seem to be pretty simple. They get simpler if it's just 1 or 2 people. So maybe if he's concerned about coming into the office, which is a totally valid concern, that we maybe give residents an opportunity to talk to him via Zoom meeting. Is that
Well, Paul Abe has been available this whole time. He has come in and he's transported permits back and forth for us, and he's done all the inspections once construction started up again. So if Jeff is not ready to come back or LTL is not ready to bring him back, we do have Paul that we could say, it's time for you to come back in the office, and he would be here.
Okay, so back to where we landed. I think where we landed was really not to change anything until we go green. Allow Sharon and Joan and Jeff to come up with a plan of what they'd like to see when we turn green.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would default to their preference, to be honest, about how to design a safe working environment for themselves, because none of us are there all day long. As long as we can accommodate our residents, as long as they can come in or they can interact with staff as they need to, that's the most important thing.
Okay, any other discussion then?
No?
All right, let's move on. We're going to have a discussion on the duties of the Park, Recreation, and Open Space Board. And this can be there's not a motion necessarily, and this can be just comments from everyone on what you think it should be. Now, you know that we created an ordinance and we put the board together. They haven't had their first meeting. I think it's maybe next week. And so the thinking originally was that this committee is going to really take a holistic approach to our parks and to our open space, rather than everything's been a little bit piecemeal up till now. They may need funding, but we're not starting there. What we're going to ask them is, do you have a strategy for crossing? Are there things you want to do? They can provide oversight to the Franklin Preserve when the bicycle trails are built. If we have an open space opportunity, it would be great for that group to be involved. And well, I'm sure there's lots of other things, so I'll open it up to everyone else.
Yeah, so I had a quick comment on that. And it's kind of a high level. The way I'm thinking about it is that, it's called Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Board. I've shortened it to PRO. So when you hear me say PRO, it's the Park and Rec group. So I think that PRO responsibilities would include all items that fall within the borders of our parks and open space. So the PRO committee would have responsibilities that would include, coordinating with the FSA, right? There's a reason that we have an FSA representative on the Parks and Rec committee, right? So we would coordinate those activities, park events, park improvements, maintenance, as well as responsibility for the identification and coordination of open space opportunities. And they would have a minimum budget that would allow for ongoing maintenance and coordination of those parks, such as trail maintenance, mowing, the bathroom services, playground repair, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that would be how we would budget the parks. And then, of course, any new projects or improvements would come before the board. So, this board has talked about dog parks or whatever. That would be something that would come before the board. And so it would be, and this is not a decision-making board, right? They would have to come to us for approval. And then finally, it would be expected that the PRO would report directly to the board on a monthly basis to update us on activities. And so, and my thought there, because we don't want to have overlap in reporting, is that the FSA would report up through the PRO and the PRO would report to us. And that's how we would do that.
Dave, I do think that would require a change to the FSA ordinance. So it would require a minor change, but nothing insurmountable.
So what would, yeah, okay.
Yeah, but so I'm confused. So once again, I'm confused. I feel like we've moved. So when you say responsibility, Dave, it sounds like you're giving them autonomy to spend certain monies to do maintenance. That was never my understanding. My understanding was that they would get together, they would have a holistic vision as Nancy described it, but they would bring their ideas, even if it's maintenance ideas, to us and explain to them, okay, so Sage Trails, we need to fix the trails. It's going to cost us $500. Are you okay with that expenditure? I don't see them working on their own to do that. I really see them coming with the ideas and bringing their plans to us. It has to be discussed publicly anyway, so they might as well do it at a Board of Supervisors meeting, and we have aired publicly. That's one part I think is. But as far as the FSA is, I don't see anybody. I would never agree to have them reporting up to the Park and Recreation Committee. I think they can coordinate. I think that's a great idea. But I see them, FSA comes up to the board just like the PRO does.
Do you have a concern, Donna? What would your concern be?
I don't want the FSA to think they're being relegated. I think we're the board. We have a responsibility for what goes on in the township. And I think it's important that the FSA comes directly to us, and so does the PRO. I agree with coordination, but I think they're separate entities that should come here separately and be handled that way.
So my only pushback with that is they serve some of the functions that they do would fall under the pro analysis. So I agree with you, and maybe I did conflate two things. I think that there is a park and rec budget, right? And that budget will be the mowing and the maintenance and the trail. So maybe I conflated those two items. But we need to have a minimum budget to allot for specifically parks and rec maintenance, right? So
we have that.
Right.
Yeah, that. Yeah.
And so with the FSA, they do things like, well, they'll go into a park and start clearing brush and that sort of work. And what we've had in the past is issues where we have one group of people doing work in Crossan Park, I'm gonna make up something, and one group of people working in Crossan Park, and their efforts are in conflict. And so I would rather, if the FSA is doing a park improvement project, they are working through the park and rec organization that we have, because they are operating in the parks and recs, the park and recreational areas of Franklin Township. They are not a external body, they're a private organization.
And so where the problem comes in is if there's a disagreement. So I totally agree with coordination.
If there's a
well, then it has to come before the board, I would think, if there's a disagreement.
Correct. Have the
I'll figure it
FSA
out.
continue to report to us.
Right.
So I totally agree. It should come to the board. Each of them should report into us, but we should very much promote coordination. But they're equal. They're not, one's not subservient to the other.
No. Well, that's why we have the FSA representation on the park board, right?
Yeah.
So
Well,
it's
just
the same. It's one organization. It's part of one organization. It's not subservient. It's part of one park and rec organization.
No, I know the personalities, and you have one FSA person on the park committee. They can get very easily outvoted, and they could be totally, any of their ideas could be shut down. That's why it's better to have them each come into us as a board. That's our responsibility, and have them coordinate together. And if they can't figure it out amongst themselves, then they bring it to us.
Donna, do you think that's going to happen often?
Yeah.
Okay, if I could just speak, we didn't, to be fair to Donna, we did not talk about having the FSA report to the pro. The pro hasn't even really gotten started yet. So I think for this year at least, let's just, let each group go and then see how things work out. Donna, I understand what you're saying, and I think there's a good point to it. So my feeling is let's let things start. Let's see how they go. And like everything, things will evolve, and we'll try to make sure they evolve in good ways.
And Nancy, I think that's a really good point, because it may happen organically. It may, and that would be the best, right? If it goes for a month or 6 months, or we're coming back next year at the same time, they may come to us and say, look, this is ridiculous. We need to bring this together, and that would be a fantastic outcome if that's what if they bring that idea themselves.
Because I think one of the things, and I think Paul's probably on here, is when you do park maintenance and when people are in the parks enjoying it, not hunting, is when you do all the maintenance and work on the park. And so that's when the FSA, that's the kind of activity that I'm thinking the FSA would be coordinating with, not their hunting activity.
Right. I got that.
I would just like to clear up one thing. The first meeting for the park committee is tomorrow night.
Thanks, Joan. That's terrific. And I think they're going to need to appoint someone. Are you expecting that they will appoint someone to kind of be the chair, or? Okay.
They will need to appoint their officers, just like any other committee. They'll have a chairman and a secretary.
Donna, Paul didn't volunteer for that, just to be fair to Paul. So I think they're going to.
Okay, yeah, that's true. I know. He's done so much work. I know. I should make those kind of assumptions.
Yeah. Okay. Any other comments on pro?
Yeah,
Paul's got something to say.
Okay.
Comments. My expectation is that this board would be an an advisory board and develop recommendations and bring them to the board for approval. I don't think they should be authorized to spend any money.
Great.
Yeah, I think that's where we landed, John.
Okay, I just want to clarify that. The other thing is that there is money in the park fund as a result of the park loan being paid off. And we paid that off last year, freeing up $56,000 a year. We put 44,000 into Stolfa. So there's about $12,000 a year in new money in the park per year. So there should be some working money in there for them to do something with.
And I think, and I don't know if we were gonna talk about this or not at this point, is, we have a mowing issue on the Gogan Trail or the Ford Farm Trail. Is this where we talk about that, or do we put that somewhere else? I'm not sure what.
Hold it. Let's let Paul Gassi speak.
Okay.
And then we'll
Oh, sorry, Paul. I apologize, Paul.
Okay. So I'm listening to all of you enumerate the various responsibilities of the new board, and I had an interesting phone call with Jim Martin, who chairs the Historical Commission at London Britain, and in the process of that phone conversation post the meeting that I was at, he started talking about what he does on the White Clay Creek Preserve, Friends of the White Clay Creek Preserve, which is sort of the Pennsylvania version of what goes on in Delaware, which is the Friends of the White Clay Creek Park. And they're working with the parks, I guess DNRC, I don't know who oversees all of this, but no, it wouldn't be.
I think it's the county, maybe.
No, it's a state.
Okay.
So I'm not sure, anyway, and they're actually part of a state foundation. I was doing a little quick research afterwards. My point, however, is that he raised issues with me about things that he is hoping to work towards with the state in terms of what is essentially the White Clay Creek Preserve Annex, which is the southern portion of our township and parts of, I believe, London Britain, and now will go into Elk. He has lots of ideas that I don't need to summarize here. But I did say to him, I think the logical point of contact for you is the new board, and I will pass the information along. So it seems to me that this is actually another function that hasn't been talked about, because this open space is state land, but it is within us, our boundaries, and it is used by our residents. And if the Friends of the White Clay Creek Preserve are trying to accomplish things that will affect the state lands in our township, it's something that we need to, at the very minimum, be actively aware of.
And I know Paul Overton and I have talked about that. In addition to the fact they're trying to create a White Clay Creek Trail through all of our townships. So I think Paul's on the call, but if I can speak for him, he's very aware. And I think that's a great point, Paul, is that there's a liaison role and a coordination role that we don't overlook.
But see, so there's the main White Clay Creek section, which is White Clay Creek. Mm-hmm. But there is the former Strawbridge property lands. Mm-hmm. And the White Clay Creek Preserve is currently trying to work up a trail, and Jim's been talking to, I guess, Natural Lands Trust about getting them to link up their trail system to the trail that they're trying to get the state to do, or work with the state to make in the Strickersville section. And this is all taking place in our township.
Right, and I think that's absolutely critical, why we would want we'd have a group of concerned citizens working on it.
There needs to be some sort of liaison with what's going on with the White Clay Creek Preserve.
Agreed, I agree.
And so I will type up these notes, the notes that I have from the conversation. I'll send them to Joan and she can pass them along. I'm not going to be in a position to deliver them personally to the first meeting, but I would like to get them out there as soon as possible. And as I said, I specifically told Jim that I felt that the new board ought to be his point of contact.
Perfect. I
He has
agree with
lots
you,
of
Paul.
ideas. I don't know how, say, residents in our township will feel about them, but I think most of them are actually very straightforward. And in the meantime, I'm having a wonderful time with my screen flashing off and on at my end. But I gather you can still hear and see me.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you, Paul.
Okay, yeah, it's a little concerning because you all just hear.
But thanks, Paul, because I mean, this kind of illustrates exactly why I think we conceived of this organization, is that it's just, there's so much information and it's nice to have a group of people to kind of think about it and to crystallize it and bring it to the board so we can talk about it. So thank you, Paul, appreciate it.
So,
Yeah,
right.
so I'll send,
Dave,
Joan, I will send you my notes and you can pass them along from my conversation with Jim Martin. I'll get them off to you tomorrow morning.
Yeah. So in the vein of there's nothing new under the sun, there was a group some years ago. So one thing that I do want to suggest is that, you know, Dave, you talked about mowing. I think if one group could really look at all of the parks, all of the mowing that goes on in the parks, and maybe just develop a strategy around where the money is best spent and then come back to the board with it. I mean, I don't want to tell Pro what to do, but I think that'd be really helpful. Because just for me alone, I had no idea what we spend for certain parks to mow and others. And so I think kind of a collective eye might be really helpful, and a strategy around, well, where's the best use of this money? So I would look forward to maybe them taking that on.
Yeah, I agree. I think
My
that'd be good.
recommendation for maintenance of the trail should be volunteers, strongly volunteers. If you immediately take it over, all the volunteers that are working on it right now will go away. So.
Well, right, I wasn't really talking about that, Jen. I was saying all the money we already spend on the mowing.
Well, we don't spend much on the mowing. That Ford Farm Trail, which is the grandmother trail, is pretty well mowed by volunteers.
No, it is not.
No,
Not at all.
it doesn't work.
I live on it. It is not mowed.
Yeah. It hasn't been working. So again, that's something that the
That's straight up wrong.
yeah, the Pro can look at and they can come up with suggestions. But you know, like I just learned today how much it costs to mow Goodwin. Well, volunteers may be able to do part of that. So maybe we can find money. But I would, you know, I think Pro will come up with some good ideas. So let's just
you need
let them get started.
volunteers to step up, the people that use those trails want to participate in the maintenance to the extent that they're capable of doing, particularly the wilderness trails.
Okay, well, that's kind of a philosophy maybe we don't need to go into today, but I understand, John, I hear what you're saying. And for the sake of time, let's just move on.
Still have more comments.
Okay.
Look at open space as part of the group title, but no open space items are listed. What specific direction is being provided by the board about open space?
Coordination of open space. Well, so what I had mentioned was coordination of open space opportunities. So I think what we want to do is have certain members, and we have a lot of really good advocates for open space. And I don't want to call out names specifically, I don't want to call them out, but they actively work with people who are interested in purchasing properties. This happened with the Stolzfus Farm. I'm sorry, I'm getting some feedback. They would be responsible for helping to identify those open space opportunities as they come up. Now, they don't have any decision-making power. They would just say, for example, the Stolzfus Farm, you know, here's this organization, they're interested in buying this farm. How can we help them preserve their open space and preserve their farm? And so they would be responsible for helping to identify and coordinate. And then it would be up for the board to decide whether or not we engage in that.
And David, if I could, that's actually where I got to thinking about this.
What properties are being considered?
Pardon me, John?
What properties are being considered, and are there negotiations in progress with property owners now?
Not that I'm aware of. Are we?
No, this isn't something we're going to spend.
Proposed to fund the open space program. Where will the funds come from in the township budget?
We're not proposing any funding. We're proposing people look at opportunities.
And if I could add to that, originally when I saw the gap in not having a park committee, I feel that we need a strategic approach to open space. So instead of just having something come up and say, well, we don't have money, we do have money. Instead, there's only a handful of parcels left and there are only a handful of families that are interested. So we just, we don't make any decisions, but we have some strategic thinking. For instance, we kind of had to do it ourselves, but last year, I think there were a couple people who came forward and wanted us to look at their lands, and we kind of one-off decided it wasn't what we were interested in, but I'd rather have the community make that decision rather than 5 board of supervisors with probably 6 different opinions. So I think it's ideal to just allow the community to have a say in this. And John, we're not talking about spending any money just now.
It's information gathering, John. It's analysis and information.
I'm going to make a couple of points here. There is absolutely no money in the township budget for this. I don't understand the planning when there isn't any money available for it, unless you get some new money from somewhere. But currently, there isn't any.
Okay. All right. Thank you, John. All right. Let's move on to.
How does the board know what the committee is working on? Do we get emails, meeting minutes, etc.? What communication links are going to?
They report to the board every month.
And they'll come to this meeting, right?
Right. Like every other organization that we engage with in the township, John.
All right,
it's pretty straightforward and simple.
So
what do we know what the FSA is working on? They come to the meeting and they tell us.
Well, exactly.
Okay.
Occasionally.
Will it be meeting minutes and video recordings?
That's a good question. Should we have meeting minutes and video recordings for the FSA? If we're going to do it, we're going to do it for every single group in the township. So we can do that. I don't agree, but
I have to, right? I mean, if you go back to the Sunshine Act, which we're going to look at, I thought if there is a group like, I just thought, I didn't think we had a choice. I thought you had to have minutes.
So for board meetings, absolutely. If we're going to do a Parks and Rec, then we can add minutes. We can add minutes and we can add video. That's totally fine.
I think
we're going to do it for every single. We're going to do it for Harvard. We're going to do it for the FSA. We're going to do it for all of them.
Well, I think you have to read what the act says. It says for township governing bodies, that's us, all township boards, commissions, councils, and authorities that take official action or render advice on matters of agency business. So I don't know what the FSA renders advice on. If they do, then they also need to do minutes. But I would expect pros
they
to
do
Paul
park maintenance.
is a member of a board and a leader. Paul, what do you have to say?
I'm just going to point out that the HARB and the Historical Commission both have minutes, whether they meet separately or jointly, as the Planning Commission does. I think that minutes for a township board are pretty much a fact of life.
Yeah, you have to do it.
Video recordings we don't do. We do an audio recording mainly to aid us in constructing our minutes.
Yeah.
And I would expect that we would have minutes from a pro board, from a pro meeting. Like, why wouldn't we have minutes? And if we want to make them, if we want to live stream them, we can live stream them. No, there's nothing stopping them. Electrons are free.
There's no secrets. You know, we don't want any secrets on any of these boards. That's not our goal. So
if I may interrupt, I've got my screen flashing at me. I'm not sure what conflict I have got. This is annoying as all get out. I realize you can see me. I can't see you. I am going to very politely take my leave because I'm trying to resolve this at my end and I'm having no luck.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks a lot.
I'm sorry that I'm not attending further, but I've got some kind of technical issue going on here.
Well, thank you,
Paul.
Okay. Good night.
Okay, and I think we should move on unless there's any more comments or concerns.
Yeah, I think, but I think John's got a good point. We should have, we can live stream.
Minutes.
We can have minutes of a park road. No reason not to.
I think
Pretty
all
simple.
the boards probably should have
Board
that.
would be that you could actually get into the meeting through Zoom to see what's going on. Not the
Well,
live
that's
meeting, but
fine.
certainly-
You can always attend too.
You
Okay.
can always come into the meeting.
Yeah. All right. Next up, Mary is going to talk about the comprehensive plan.
Okay, the comprehensive plan, they're going to have their first meeting of the comprehensive plan task force on Tuesday, June 23rd at 6:30. These meetings are going to take place on the fourth Tuesday of each month. The first meeting will be held virtually via Zoom. Instructions for accessing the meeting will be posted on the township website as the meeting date gets closer. Any comments?
I do. Mary and Dave, I know that Jeff and I we were meeting with a local resident, and they're, not everybody's Zoom aware of how to use Zoom. So we just have to maybe reach out to folks, either help them figure out how to use it, or it may be that a few people can come into the township. I'm not really sure how to do it. I just know that someone expressed concern that they really don't know how to use Zoom.
Okay.
And maybe you can just talk to Jeff one-off and come up with some ideas.
Of another way to get them the information from the
For
meeting.
anyone who's not
Okay.
using Zoom, yeah.
So the resident, maybe I missed it, the resident that was concerned that they couldn't use Zoom, did they reach out to Jeff or Joan already and look for help, or?
I think it just came about when we had a conversation about something else. So I think, Jeff, maybe the takeaways, if you could help them and figure out a way forward, and then maybe give everyone else an option to say, look, are you okay with Zoom? Do you have it? Just so people aren't excluded because they don't have the same technology.
Right.
Some people don't use computers.
People that can't get in, are they people that are on the committee or just interested residents?
On the committee.
Oh, well, that's a real problem.
Well, that's what I think we're working on it.
We'll figure it out. It's worth getting every voice.
Yes. So we will figure that out before we get we move forward. Maybe Jeff, if you have something to say.
I was just going to say, I'm more than willing to help any resident with Zoom if they wish to have help.
So this specific resident, Jeff, did they reach out to you, or Nancy? Can we help them reach out?
I had a conversation with the resident.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. So that was my comment.
Okay.
All right.
Any other comments?
I have one comment.
Okay.
Since the compliance with the high-density housing has been resolved, the key remaining zoning issue that requires resolution is the deficiency of the SU special use.
John, I can't hear you.
All right. Let me see if I'm blocking the microphone. Is that any better?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yes.
Okay, I had a clipboard in front of the computer, sorry. Since the compliance with the high-density housing has been resolved, the key remaining issue that requires resolution is the deficiency of the SU special use district. Unresolved, the township is in some legal jeopardy, hence it should be a high priority item for this committee as a first task.
Dave or Mary, do you have any thoughts on that?
No, I think it's a good suggestion. Thank you, John.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else with anything? Donna?
No, I'm good, Nancy, thank you.
Okay.
All right.
John, you got the next one?
John, you're next.
Okay. Before we make this motion here, Joan, can you give us a little background on this? Because as I understand it, the reason we collect money from these groups that use the park facilities is to put some administrative order to it, not necessarily to make money. Because I remember when we first got started, they were free. Sharon probably knows this probably best. And when people didn't have any skin in the game, things didn't go well. So I want to see if I can clarify that point. Is that the case? That we only collect the money to put some discipline into the use of it? Question is to Joan.
We do collect money. We collect $4,000 a year from four different leagues that play. And I've checked with some other townships, and some other townships are cheaper than us, but it is a good point that they, as John said, they do have some skin in the game so that we can make sure that they do take care of the fields and do what is necessary.
Yeah, and use the thing in a timely manner and not just tie it up and then not show up. That was some of the issues that went on. All right, so I just want to be sure that was the case. So if we want to reduce the rate, what percentage would you suggest based on what?
It should be based on time of usage, right? Rate based.
That's what I'm asking right now.
Well, I think we're doing this because of COVID and because they weren't able to use the fields for the first, I guess, half of the year. So I think they're feeling like they had to pay all their fees and they're looking for a break from us. So this is a one-time break from us that they're requesting. Now, Joan, do you have a number in terms of what you're looking at?
Well, they're only going to be able to use it for half the time. So, I mean, if you want to do 50% on that line,
I mean, I think that's only fair that if they're only going to use it for the time, you know, whatever time reduction it is, that's what we should be charging.
I'm fine with that. I know for us, it's not going to be that difficult to swallow. For some of these teams, that's a lot of money to have to leave on the table. So I'm fine with the 50%. So each team is going to get a $500 break then that they wouldn't.
That's why I made the point that we don't necessarily collect it to make money. We're just trying to control the administration of it. All right, so then if 50,
even if we did, right? Even if we did do it to make money, you can't charge people for usage that they didn't use. Right?
That's true. So, all right, let me read the motion. And
Now, John, before you do that, can I just ask a clarifying question from Joan? Joan, we have to do certain things. So I'm not against anything that anybody said, so please don't think that. But I just want to know, we had to put certain money out anyways, even if they're not using it, right? Even if teams are not using the park, the fields. So we have to still maintain them?
yes, we have a fertilization program and turf maintenance program, which we've continued even though they weren't using the fields, and actually it benefited us because the fields got a rest and they really look great. So there are expenses that we have related to the fields to make them usable for the teams.
Right. So my point is, we're not. So I totally agree with what we're going to do, but I just want folks to realize it's not like we saved any money. We still have the same cost, but we want to be fair as fair as we can be in terms of not charging them for something that they didn't do. So thank you for hearing me. Let's go ahead, Josh.
all right, then I make a motion that the Board of Supervisors allow the leagues at Crossing Park to play at a reduced rate of 50% for the remainder of the 2020 playing season.
I'll second that.
Second by Nancy. Any further discussion?
Nope.
Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
I'm going to get us ready for the next item. So we're going to talk about the Sunshine Act and the Township Procurement Program. I just wanted to start off with just a few comments. First, I want to thank my fellow board members for recommending that we discuss our practices in the context of the Sunshine Act. I think it's been a good review for me. Even though I was introduced to this when I first joined the board, it's been very helpful to read the information that Joan's provided for us in the package. And it's clear, very clear, that all official actions and deliberations must take place at a public meeting. And it's important to note that deliberation is a very broad term and that it includes email communications. And I think that we as a board need to do a better job to make sure that we don't deliberate via email, even though I know that's not our intentions, but it's very easy to get caught up in that. The second part of the Sunshine Act that I agree is very important for us to look at is allocating funds. And it's very clear also in the Sunshine Act that allocating funds for administrative purposes is something that can be done by our township manager and does not necessarily have to be done at a public meeting, as long as it's connected to projects that have already been approved by the board. And I know sometimes it can be tricky. I can say for myself, it can be tricky to understand that line. And I'm hoping that as we talk tonight, we're going to help add some clarity to that so we know those things that can be taken care of by the project manager and those that definitely need to be talked about at a public meeting. So I think that's also a good idea. And then my third point is that staff meetings have come up. I've actually seen them in an email communication about staff meetings and how they've been abused in the past. And I just want to put on the record, public record, that I think the staff meetings are very important for me as a Board of Supervisor member to listen. And I need to, and I commit to the public that I plan to attend these meetings in the future, but my role will be as someone who listens to learn about what activities are going to go on in the township in the context of administrative actions. I also want to assure the public that any discussions regarding work that was not considered administrative, this is in the past, so I'm not speaking for this current board. Anything that was done in the past where we did discuss it at a staff meeting, those decisions, or I shouldn't say decisions, those discussions were forwarded to a Board of Supervisors meeting, and allocations for the road program, which is hundreds of thousands of dollars, allocations to fix the bathrooms in Crossan Park, which also cost thousands of dollars, was something that was fully vetted with the board, discussed with the board, and of course the public was there to provide their comments. So thank you. As I said, I think this is an important discussion, and I just wanted to provide some context to it.
Okay, I think I'll take it from there, and we'll allow each person to have their comments.
Thanks, Nancy.
Yeah, so Donna's right. I don't think anyone ever intended for, and when we say staff meetings, Joan has always had staff meetings, but about 8 years ago, supervisors started attending the staff meetings. And when you have two supervisors in a staff meeting, you cannot have deliberations and you can't make decisions. So the Sunshine Act is all about making decisions in the open. That's why it's called the Sunshine Act. And I'm sure if anyone wants a copy of it, Joan can get it to you, or Sharon. So it's become a bit of a problem. We had it, and I just learned that executive sessions are supposed to be explained at an open meeting immediately before the session. So I'm gonna take the first step in being clear that we had an executive session last week, and that session was about making sure everyone does understand the Sunshine Act and the importance of compliance and the risk of having two supervisors in a room together. So that was an important discussion. And again, that was the purpose of the executive session. So going forward, what we want to do is for the residents, for everyone, to make sure you know where every dollar goes that is your money. Now, money that's already been funded. So let's say we say we're going to spend, I don't know, $20,000 cutting the grass, and it's going to be these areas. Okay, that's fine. But if we come up with a new something, and it's going to, cost money that is going to be required from the general fund, we have to discuss that in public. We can't just choose to move money or spend more money than was agreed. And in a nutshell, that's really what we have to do. So I think that's, my view is we need to tighten things up, and we need to avoid situations where supervisors can make mistakes, because it inevitably happens. We discussed last month the Sunshine Act, and then we had a problem between last month and this month. It's just human nature to want to get things done. So those are my comments.
Thanks, Nancy. And I agree. And one of the things that came out of this is some thoughts that I had on how to move forward. Because one of the important pieces, and we talked about this in the executive committee, or executive meeting, about people's natural tendencies to talk about stuff, because that's what we want to do. We want to get a project rolling. We want to get things done. And it's the first of the month, and it's 2 weeks until the next Board of Supervisors meeting. I can see where problems arise. So I might want to talk a little bit about solutions, if you will. This is important for me. And Donna, I don't know if you could, I think you're on, if you mute your phone, I'm getting some echo. If you can, that'd be helpful. So the important thing is that we make all of our decisions in public with open discussion. And when Mary and I ran, that was one of our key platforms, was to make sure that we make all of our decisions in open. And so we just had our open road meeting, and in previous years, that was not a public meeting. That meeting was held in private. And that, I felt that was wrong. Mary felt that was wrong. Nancy felt that we fixed it, right? And so this was the first year that I know of that where we had a road prioritization meeting and discussion that was open to the public. It's up on YouTube. You can watch it yourself. And so we ran on this, and that's kind of where this meeting is why Mary and I are here, in my mind. And so I would make, and I don't know how to procedurally correct, but I would make a motion, if we were to make a motion, that the Board of Supervisors move first check signing to Board of Supervisors meeting. Okay, so we do one of the administrative actions that Board of Supervisors do at a staff meeting that requires our presence is to sign checks. So step one is we move the checks to Board of Supervisors meeting.
Procedurally, do you want to wait to do these motions? Do you want to keep talking and then do the motions, or do you want to do the motions?
Well, I'm just giving you what my ideas are for solutions, because and then we can talk about whether or not they're nuts. But I think that, or we can go and do some more talking. But the other point is, we should have, right now we allow for two supervisors in a meeting. And one of the things that I'd like to see is we reduce the allowable number of supervisors for weekly staff meetings from 2 to 1. And that the board is notified before each staff meeting which board member will be in attendance. And so that means that the board and the board member in attendance is there, as Donna pointed out, for education, for learning about the township and what things are doing. Because other than just learning, there's no other function for a supervisor to be in a staff meeting, right? Because you can't make a decision, you can't do any other action. So the only function is to listen to what Joan and her staff are doing for the week. So we don't need a full board there. And regarding decision-making at staff meetings, the day-to-day running of the township does not require Board of Supervisors approval. This is pretty clear. If the Board of Supervisors, during this meeting, if we approve, say, a road project, items within the scope of executing the approved project do not require micromanagement by the board, right? Joan doesn't need to ask two supervisors every week, does this bag of asphalt better than that bag of asphalt? That's why we have a manager. If an item comes up, and they do from time to time, for example, something that would push a project over budget, or a change must be made to the design or scope of the project, that is when it comes before a public board meeting, because we as agents of the public, we are changing what we agreed to. And so my fundamental feeling here is we hired a manager to manage these projects within their scope, and we should allow her to do that. And she should be able to identify gray area issues, bring them to the board for us to resolve them. And I don't believe there are that many gray area issues where a project scope is expanded, or we go completely over budget and need to revisit, right? And so there is no reason for a supervisor or a group of supervisors to be in a staff meeting other than to simply listen and learn. Because there's nothing we can do as individual staff members or individual board members outside of a quorum in one of those staff meetings. So that's basically my high level overview of what I would like to see moving forward.
So David, while you're talking, I was just wondering, could you talk about emails? Do you have any thought about that? Because I think that is also something that we have to tackle, because it's so.
Yeah, I agree. I don't like them. I think it's too easy for us to just start falling into these conversations, right? And all of a sudden, and this, all of us are, we're all passionate. That's why we're all here, and we like to have our voices heard. And so you get an email, you disagree with it, your natural inclination is to respond to it. And I think that's when we say, look, Donna's bringing up this point. We got to talk about it at the next Board of Supervisors meeting, right? Because then, if all of a sudden I'm replying to you and I'm talking to Mary and Nancy and we're all talking, and John, we can't do that. We need to have those conversations in public. I mean, we do. That's just the law.
But yeah, I mean, just to note that even one person talking to Joan could get us in trouble. It doesn't even take two
I
supervisors.
think we can do that. I think one person can talk to Joan. I think that's probably the way to do it. If we get into a situation, and I'm going to make a commitment to this group, that if I see that happening, that an email gets out, I'll probably just say, I think we should stop this right now.
I
And
agree.
Joan, just put it on the agenda. And I would hope that nobody on the board would take that the wrong way, because it's not meant to be the wrong way.
No, I agree. I agree with you.
I don't think you're going to have any disagreements from us.
I 100% on board.
Yeah. Okay, so let's keep moving. John, Mary, Donna, who wants to go next? Donna, you spoke. John or Mary?
How about you take it, John, if you're okay with that? And I'll go last.
All right, I think what you have to be careful of is that you may not be able to, the township manager may not be able to manage the day-to-day operation if you get too much control. So whatever policy we come up with needs to make sure that she can manage this place on a day-to-day basis. So you don't take all the decisions out of her hands and move it into a monthly board meeting. I don't know what the policies will be just yet or how they'll overlay on the operation, but I think that's what we need to be careful of, that
Right.
can be managed on a day-to-day basis.
So I don't think we're doing that. I don't think any of us suggested that, because we, so for example, if you say, we're going to talk about roads next, but for example, if we vote to fix a road, I'm not interested in going into the township office and saying, we now need to tell Joan how to fix the road, because we should have someone who's a qualified engineer to fix the road. And Joan will go ahead and sign checks and decide what the project is, right? Our job is to just create the project, approve the project, not day-to-day management. Like, let me ask this. What is an example of which Joan couldn't handle a decision? Like, what would be an example on a road project that Joan wouldn't be able to handle a decision?
I like that Joan respond to that. She's got to manage it, so I can't.
Well, and this may be something that we're going to work through. John, I understand what you're saying. Dave, I don't know that we have to solve it right now, but John, I see your point. We want to make sure that we don't tie, Dave, just let me finish, that we don't tie people's hands. So Dave, if it's okay, let's keep going and let's allow Mary to speak. Oh, John, do you have anything else? Fair enough.
Okay. I guess I'll start off with the Wednesday staff meetings. I do not want to go to a staff meeting again. I think it's just too easy to talk about things that you shouldn't be talking about, whether or not you make a decision. Once you start talking about them, you really are like letting on how you feel about it, how you don't feel about it. What I would prefer instead is maybe Joan in her Friday update, or she can do a staff meeting update, tell us what's going on that week. And then if we have any questions, we can contact Joan and say, I don't understand this. Or, by all means, put this on the agenda for the Board of Supervisors meeting. I think as far as Joan, day-to-day managing our township, any monthly bills, be it the electric, whatever, we expect her to take care of them. Any other things that aren't monthly bills, if they were approved of at a Board of Supervisors meeting, she has the authority to go ahead and pay those bills and do whatever she has to do. I think the only issue is if we didn't approve it at a Board of Supervisors meeting where the public had a chance to comment, she cannot authorize any money to be spent, nor can any supervisor. Everything has to be done at the public meeting. I agree, Donna, with these emails. We can get in a lot of trouble, and we don't mean to. As you said, Dave, we all get very passionate about something, and we want to give our opinion, but we cannot continue to do that. I also think, the check signing, 100% agree. they should be done once a month at the public meeting. I don't know that 5 people have to sign them, but 5 people should put their eyes on them. And that's pretty much it. I think the more we can do public meetings, there's no downside to it. Any meeting we have, make it public. Why not? We're not trying to hide anything, and it's everybody's money. So I don't want to do anything like that. So that's kind of my comments. That was the whole reason I got involved in this. And I think we're going in the right direction. I think we've always had the right intention, but sometimes things get a little loosey-goosey, and that's, I think, why we had this executive session to understand the Sunshine Law. And I think we're going forward in the right direction, but it's going to take some practice on our part to do it the right way. And that's the only way we can do things. So
And
that's my 2
if
cents.
I could add a clarification on emails, one person can send an email out to everyone, but you can only respond back to the one person. You can't copy all. You can't. So just, and I think we can follow that, because there are times when you do, when Joan may need to email all of us, but it's important that we don't all email each other then. We just have to keep it very clean. But anyhow, I'm sure the public's not.
Yeah, I think that's an important.
I want to build, if I could build on that, because I think it's a really good point. I know, Mary, sounds like you're concerned that you can't ever say your opinion as a Board of Supervisor member. You can tell me your opinion. You can tell Joan your opinion. What we can't do is tell each other our opinions and have it become a deliberation.
Right.
So there's nothing wrong. And as I said, from an email perspective, I could send Nancy an email. She could send me an email. It's just that we can't send an email to everybody and then assume that we've made a decision, because a decision can't be made in that context.
Well, Donna, I'll give you an example. We decided to get the new website, and somehow you and I are the team working on the website. And I looked at a website that had on their front page scrolling, and I kind of liked it. And I thought, let me get Donna's opinion. And you said, no, Mary, I don't like it. And you made me think about it. I said, no, Donna's right. Now, that's not something I had to tell everybody on the board, but I agree we can do that among each other to help each other make a good decision. It's just, I get really nervous, like staff meetings, we could get into an area we don't want to be in. But no, I have no problem with asking one board member a question, or go through Joan is the way I'm looking at it.
Right. I want to make a point. The staff meeting is the same as an email. So I actually appreciated Dave's comment where he at least was open to the fact that one person could come to a staff meeting. And I think you guys know I'm passionate about these staff meetings, and I plan to attend, and I would like to attend in a context that you guys are agreeing and knowing that I'm attending. Because I see a staff meeting, I have to behave on a staff meeting just like I have to behave in an email. I cannot make a decision. I am there to listen. I am there I can provide, I don't even know if I can provide an opinion, but I can listen. And I think that,
Right. So Donna, if everyone remembers just 2 words, deliberations and decisions, none of those things can happen outside of a board meeting. Deliberations or decisions. Until the money's approved, obviously.
And we're kind of conflating 2 issues here. There's deliberation, there's having a board of supervisors, establishing a quorum, and discussing and deliberating and making decisions outside of a board meeting. Staff meetings, that's not what was happening. We didn't have a quorum. We would have 2 supervisors making decisions who do not have authority to make decisions. And so there's 2 different issues, right? So there's establishment of authority, and there's Sunshine Act infractions. So for example, if you and I are at a staff meeting and we tell Joan, you know what, I think what we should do is do whatever. We don't have the authority to do that because you and I have no authority. The authority is held by the Board of Supervisors in a quorum. That's where the authority lies. So I can't tell Joan to go buy a bucket of nails.
In a public forum.
Public forum. Like even in a private forum, if I walk into the office and say, Joan, I want you to go to Home Depot instead of Lowe's. she's going to say, you can't tell me to do that. You have no authority as a single board member. That's actually a board decision.
And I totally agree with you. And this is where I sometimes push back on Nancy saying, we can't dictate policy on an email. One person saying, I want you to do this,
Right.
doesn't work. I like the way you put it, David. None of us by ourselves we can't even tell Joan to buy a bucket of nails. We can't do anything.
That's right.
So our power
And
is.
so that's where I push back against John saying, well, you're going to slow down township business because we're not going to be able to make decisions with Joan. And it's like, we're not allowed to do it in the first place.
Oh, I think John's point is that Joan can make the decisions and we don't hold Joan back. And we probably should allow her to speak, but I think that's the concern, that Joan doesn't feel paralyzed, that she can't even make the decisions she's empowered to make.
So I think from my point of view, we're kind of empowering Joan, right? Here's the project, go do it, right?
Yeah. So, Joan, you want to comment? I mean, how do you feel? Is it clear to you, or do you feel like you understand where we're going with this?
Yes, I think I do.
You're muted.
Joe, we can't hear you.
May I ask a question?
Of course.
If a project is approved at a Board of Supervisors meeting, pick any road, any road project, if it's approved by the board, do we have to wait until the next month's meeting to pay that bill, or can it be paid in between if it had been approved at a board meeting?
Well, Jeff, theoretically, you could pay it in between, but we're moving to once a month payments. This is a standard procedure.
Yeah,
it's what many other townships do. So, but theoretically, unless that amount of money goes over the budget that was agreed to, it's fine paying those bills. And of course, the board's going to sign them. The question is the money what we budgeted, or is it above the budget? So I think we have to do a better job of understanding the budget and putting codes, project codes against a lot of these projects so that we know what the budget is for a number of these projects, and then we can see the checks going against them and seeing when we're going to hit the limit. And we don't have that right now. So it's very difficult for us when we sign checks to know when a project, first of all, how much money has been allocated to a project, and second of all, when it's going to exceed that project.
Well, and Nancy, if I could comment, I would like projects going forward to show the total costs, because sometimes I think they get separated out. In other words, we approve $10,000 for a bridge, and then, oh, well, wait a minute, we have engineering costs of $7,000, and then we have permit costs of $4,000. So I'm thinking I'm okay in a $7,000 bridge. I'm not. So I think we need to tighten that up too, that we get all the costs as close as we can. I mean, we can't be on the penny, as close as we can, and then we can make really good decisions.
Yes, so that when we commit to something, the public really knows what we're going to spend to the best of our abilities. Yeah, great point.
I have one additional comment related to payments, because it looks like we want to control the outflow of money by signing checks in the board meeting. There are other methods that money goes in and out of the township, mainly electronic transfers. Is that something you want to monitor also?
Are we paying check or paying electronic? I know we get our bank statements by electronic means, but are we paying any checks electronically?
So the short answer for John is, right now, the only reason that we've moved the board of the check signing to once a month is to facilitate limited board member requirement at staff meetings. So my personal preference would be that we continue to monitor township expenditures with Joan's regular budget updates, right? The only requirement is that we need to sign those checks.
Well, the treasury reports do show all the money going in and out. I just wanted to know whether there was anything related to electronic transfers that you wanted to manage. That's the question.
Yeah, it's a good question.
What goes in and out that way?
Yeah.
Can you
what's your thought?
can you get your mute button to work? You can't get it to, okay.
The only payments that are made electronically are payroll taxes are that way. The payment for our 403 contribution is paid electronically. And that is it. I do not pay anything electronically. People are always asking us to do that, and I don't do that.
Okay, so that's not a concern for us. We already know those other expenses. They're all approved each year. Okay, great. Good question, but it sounds like we have that covered.
I do have a question though, and I know when we do work on some of these projects, for example, when we do the road project and Jim has a full crew out there working, there are some large bills which we have approved. You will have approved if you approve the road project and say we're going to spend X amount of money. Jim can chime in here, but I don't think it's something that he can wait a month, to get his money into asking to do that.
Well, it's usually not a full month. If he's doing it in April 1st, well, if he did work June 1st, he would be waiting 2 weeks. If he did it, at the end of the month, he'd be waiting 2 weeks, right? I think that it's something that it's very normal.
If he started tomorrow, though, he'd have to wait a month.
That's true.
I think
but it's also a very normal practice, right? So we've heard, the PSATs when we were trained, Mary and I, most townships pay their bills monthly. Franklin Township's a unique case, right? And so it's I don't know what it is, why Jim or whomever, they might not like it, but this is standard practice, right? So we're doing actually a favor. We're doing our vendors a favor, our contractors a favor by doing these weekly check cashing, check signing, when we could just be doing standard practice, which is monthly payments, like any other organization.
Yeah, but David, you understand why the budget. I don't want to speak for Jim, but I can guess he doesn't have the budget to put that money out front. He has to pay his guys every week, and he doesn't have thousands and thousands of dollars to back it up. I mean, is there a reason why we couldn't make an exception for Jim for his that the project is approved as we by all the rules. And it's all within budget. Can he be paid maybe every 2 weeks as opposed to once a month, just to help?
Don, I would just use the example of, I don't know if you've ever been in the case where your pay went from weekly to monthly, your own personal pay, but mine didn't. And first it's tough, but eventually you figure it out. So there might be a tough month, but then hopefully you're getting the same amount of money. You're getting it once a month instead of once a week. So at first it is going to be a little bit difficult, but there's so many good reasons to just move to once a month, including that standard practice that I think we should try it. And if Jim thinks something's really not going to work, then we're going to have to talk to him. But I mean, our vendors really shouldn't dictate our approach.
Well, I mean, I worked at AZ like you did, Nancy, so I know what it's like to get paid a month. And it was more than a month for me to get used to it. And I was a person who was salaried, so I got the same amount every month. It's different if you're a contractor where some months or some weeks you're working a lot and maybe you have an outlay of $10,000 for your employees, and another time you have an outlay of $2,000, and it's just covering that until the money comes back in again.
So I guess the question would be for
something.
So okay, again.
Jim, do you have something you want to add?
Yes, I would.
Okay.
I everything everybody's saying, but I just feel like you guys don't realize the time that I give to the township that I do not charge the township for. That we've worked together for almost 20 years now, and my time going to staff meetings, me going out checking these roads, there's a lot of time that I do not charge you guys for For you guys to say something like this, and Nancy, I told you this when we were looking at the trees. I'm very passionate at what I do, especially for Franklin Township. This is not a game for me. It's not a public thing. This is me working for you guys to give you the best job. If you have a problem with it, you need to come to me, not Facebook or anything like that. You come to me. I'm a man. I can stand on my own 2 feet.
Jim, can you speak to any hardship this will put you in if you get paid, if we start paying you once a month as opposed to weekly, what you get now? Can you just speak to that, please?
For a discount that I give you guys, yes. The check that I have right now, it's going to make me hard to make payroll.
So does your setup preclude you from working with any other township?
Dave, let's go back. I work for you guys. You're number one. Okay? You're number one. I give you the most discount. I've had the same prices for almost 20 years. I went up, I don't know, 3-4 years ago. Okay? I give you the best time. I give you 24/7 service. I go out, when I'm having a cookout, I got to leave and go shut a road down. Find somebody else to do that. I don't charge you 4-hour minimum. I didn't even charge you for that particular time. And then you guys want to do this. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think we're hearing from a passionate person who puts his heart and soul into his job, and this will be a hardship for him. And I really ask us to consider, is there something that we can do as an exception for someone who's a small business owner? We talk a lot about small businesses and how important they are to our country, and in this case, to our township. And I just think it's just, there's no, I don't see a good reason to put a hardship on a man who has done his very best for us for 20 years. You may agree or not agree that everything he's done has been perfect. I personally think he's done a great job, but that's not the point. The point is, why should he be making his life more difficult when he's telling us, you can hear it in his voice, that this will be a hardship for him? We can make this work.
So, I mean, so the reason this came around is because every week people were signing checks and we were getting in trouble at the supervisors meeting.
Happy to go in every week and sign a check.
Explaining what this all came about. And I certainly don't want to allow everyone to get paid every other week. I mean, I'm open to talking about if it's just Jim and it's every other week. I don't see a point for every week. I think every other week is a pretty reasonable compromise, but I don't want to speak for everyone. It's something I could live with. Just for Jim, nobody's getting an exception.
I just want to say that I would be willing, if it's a hardship for people to sign those checks, I would be willing to go in to commit to the group here.
Yeah, no,
so I will go in and sign the checks.
It's not the hardship. It was what was happening when people were getting together to sign the checks, right? That's how we got to this point.
That's right. The only reason we talked about this was because the only function that a supervisor had at a staff meeting was to sign those checks. So if we aren't going to do that anymore and not do the staff meetings, we would have to find another way to do it. But if we want to do Friday check signing, that's fine too, right? That's another option.
I would just ask that we only do it for Jim. I hate to say
I would agree with that. That's a special case where he does special work for us. And so why not, right? I mean,
I appreciate that. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Mary and John, where are you guys at with it?
I think you need to pay Jim in a timely manner because he's a small business guy. He's not heavily capitalized, provides a tremendous service to this township. And he told you some of the things that he does. But I think you got to make an exception for his case because you'll not find another contractor that'll do what he does for Franklin Township.
No,
But accommodate him some way, and I don't know how right now, but my preference is to continue to pay him weekly.
Jim, could you live with every other week?
I'll be honest, I like the way it's been going. With the way things are right now, and not working for 2 months because of the virus and all that, yeah, it's put me in a hard spot. I've been trying to dig out of it. I've gotten out of it, you know, to a big sort. You guys never lost me as a contractor. I've been right in there. Somehow I'd like to go back to where we were. That's one thing that does keep up with the discount, you know, for the things that I buy. Just a normal contractor, you know, you want to pay the rates of waiting 30 to 45 days, 90 days. I mean, you can get right down the board. Jeff will back me up. You know, a couple of suppliers that you guys got, besides me, gave you credit because of the way Franklin Township paid. And that's a compliment to you guys. You know, I'm speaking for both of us. You know, it's just not me. But I do speak on my part as far as the hardship, like Donna said. You know, we were set up a certain way, and with the 3 months, 2 months, whatever it was, I didn't do anything. It makes it hard.
So have you always been paid weekly?
Yes, ma'am, I have.
For 20 years.
Yes, Nancy, and you look surprised. And
I just, it's a long time to do anything consistently. And my point is, you know, that is a big change to make.
I'm sorry, say that again, please.
I understand. I mean, if you've been doing it for 20 years that way, it's a big change for you to have to switch. I mean, I kind of hoped 2 weeks would work, but if you needed time to get to 2 weeks, you know, we could do weekly for 3 months or whatever. But I mean, if you really don't think you can do it every other week, I guess we have to go every week. I don't know.
Like I said, I'd be happy to sign the checks.
Yeah,
I don't want to put anybody else out, but if it's Friday's check signing, I'm happy to go in and sign it.
Right, it has to be 2 people and you can't do it together. We just can't.
We can actually bring the checks out to someone, so you don't have to worry about running into the other person. That's not a problem. But we do need to do it on a Wednesday because Jim's payroll is on Fridays, if that's okay. If we could just pick the Wednesday. And that way, if it falls on a meeting night, then you would have the checks that week for the meeting night.
So Mary and Dave, if you have any complaints, speak now, or else we'll just move on.
No, I'm good.
Okay, so everyone else is one. Oh, sorry, Mary.
Yeah, I guess, I got to think some more about this. Having heard from Jim now, I did want everything to go to once a month, but if it's that much of a hardship for him now, I got to think about it. And as far as the last 3 months, Jim, come on, we've all been suffering this. I know it's been hard for you as a small business person, but everybody, that's not Franklin Township's fault. That's the coronavirus fault. But I will agree to consider maybe every other week. If you think you could live with every other week,
No,
then
we're going to go to every week,
vendor.
Gary. We're going to go to every week.
The every week payment.
Every week for whatever work Jim does for us.
Right.
So you want to continue the way it is for Jim and Jim only?
Correct.
That's
I would also suggest it might be worthwhile getting some documentation on like the work that he's doing, just so we have a full picture of how much work he's doing pro bono for the township. That would be helpful for me to understand what extra work he does.
Well, every check has an invoice attached to it, so you could look at the invoice and see specifically.
Right. No, Dave's talking about the free work.
He's talking about, Jim's talking about the free work that he does for the township. And so I don't see that because he doesn't line item it. So it'd be interesting to see the pro bono work in the special work that he does above and beyond another contractor.
Yeah, so Jim, I think this is an important message for you to hear. I think we have a new board now, and these are good people that are just trying to get a sense of what you do. And I know you do so much. You just do it in the background. It would really be beneficial to the full board if you could just try to keep a sense of that. So maybe every week or every month, you just report back to the, just create a quick report. It doesn't have to be beautiful, but just, close the road down or was called out to do some emergency something or other. Just keep a tab of some of the stuff that you do that you're not charging us for. I think it would help us remember what you do and appreciate you more for what you do. So it's a little more work for you, but I think it would be very beneficial to the board to have a sense of what you are providing for the township.
Well, Jim, and you could even just send a text message or an email or whatever method you like to use. Just send it to Joan, and Joan will let everybody know. And then you're only contact one person.
Okay, Jeff has been patiently raising his hand.
Okay.
Staff will do a better job in helping bring that to light to the board. So
Okay.
I will make that a priority to do.
Great. That's really-
We have a lot more topics. Any other comments on this? All right, we're hitting 9 o'clock and we've got a lot more to go. Okay. So.
Well, I'm sorry, Nancy, but are we going to make motions or for the check signing and?
I don't think there was ever a policy, so I don't know that we have to make a motion. We just are changing what we're doing.
So can someone summarize what we decide to change?
I'll summarize that. So for the supervisor meetings, if someone wants to attend, they cannot deliberate, they cannot make decisions, and we cannot have more than one person.
The staff meeting, but
staff meetings. On the check signing, we're going to have all our vendors go to once a month, except with Jim. We're going to keep Jim at once a week for now.
And the final point is that the board knows who's in attendance at these meetings for information purposes only.
And then the last point I'll add is emails. We're going to be diligent about making sure that we do not deliberate or make decisions via email.
Right.
So,
and Joan can send out emails, or any one of us can send out an email to everyone. You cannot respond to everyone. You can only respond to that person. And emails can be subpoenaed, so it's always good to remember that as well.
Good. Thank you.
We always used to send out a short summary after a staff meeting so that supervisors who weren't here knew what was going on. So we can continue to do that, even though it's just the staff meeting. We could say, this is what we talked about, and this is what we're going, we usually meet with Jim too, and this is what we're going to do over the coming week or so. So you'll know what's going on.
That'd be really helpful, Jim.
Yeah, I like that idea, Joan, very much. Thank you.
Okay, let's move
Okay, I'm sorry, just one more thing. So and this is what Mary brought up. So Joan, we're going to ask for a little bit more context for projects so that we have a good sense of what we're spending. And as we sign the checks, have a context of how they work against that particular project.
I actually have a spreadsheet that I would really appreciate that, so maybe I can talk to Joan. She can then bring it to the board and see if that's going to work for people. Because it's just really hard to know to Mary's point, it's really hard to know how you put the pieces of a project together to understand what the project's really costing and when you're going over budget. So that's the goal. Or Joan, if you have a spreadsheet that does that, great. But to me, the goal is to see all the pieces of a project and to know where we're at with the spending.
Well, I would like to see what you have. I mean, I'm always looking at something new, but I did share with Mary when she came in today, the spreadsheet that I use for the big projects that we have worked on, for example, the road. And it shows what our costs are estimated to be. And it also shows the funding that will pay for those expenses, like the liquid fuels, whether it's liquid fuels, capital account, general fund, or whatever. And it summarizes all that, and that's updated every week when we're doing these larger projects.
I would just add little projects because those are the ones that we seem to have the most problems with.
I was laughing with you, Nancy, not against you.
We'll argue for months over the smallest projects. The big ones get through.
Right, they're no problem. Okay, so let's move on. Dave, are you next? Yeah.
Yes, I am. So I make a motion that the Board of Supervisors authorize the township manager to move forward with implementing the 2020 road program with the following roads: Elbow Lane, Gypsy Hill, Auburn Road, and stormwater work on Laurel Bridge Road to include ditching and driveway swale work at 167 Laurel Bridge Road, with the understanding that budget limitations may affect the number of roads completed this year. Seconded by?
I'll second that.
Thanks. And now we'll open up for discussion. And I think I'll start it off. You know, we had a road meeting 2 Fridays ago. It was open. It's on YouTube. You can look at it and listen to our deliberations. And after that road meeting, I began to have serious reservations about moving forward with road projects until we have an expert third-party analysis of our road system. You know, we had a resident at the beginning of this meeting bring up a current road issue that is apparently very serious to this resident that wasn't on this list, that wasn't part of our conversation on Friday, because we were given a list by Jim Dorazio and Jeff Eastburn, because they were doing the road analysis. And so I think that one of the things that we really want to do, and it's not that they did anything wrong, but we really need to have a third-party analysis. We are working from an analysis from 2007 that I was told we shouldn't follow. I was also told during that meeting that there is no way we can evaluate roads because roads fall apart faster than roads are almost a random event. And so the policy has been, we simply throw $500,000 every year at the road projects. We pick the roads and we hope for the best. And I simply cannot support that line of thinking. And so for me, I think moving forward, any road project must have 3 things in place: a comprehensive road plan that uses data and expert analysis to prioritize our entire road system, because all of these roads work together. 2, a qualified third party to do that analysis. And 3, we approach each road project as a separate and distinct project that follows a bidding process appropriate for a separate and distinct project. You know, because each road has separate issues, right? And so if you look at, and we're going to talk about the Elbow Lane tree work in the next piece, and the tree work was done, and now we're going to have to fix it, right? Because we brought in an arborist to take a look at the tree work was done, and we got to do stump work, we got to fix the trees. That's going to cost us more money, and because we just look at it as, let's just spend $500,000 and get the job done. I don't agree with it, and I think we really need to think about how we approach this.
Dave.
Public comment. Let's have our supervisors talk, please, Jim.
Wait a second. It's not public comment in the sense that Jim is the guy who did the road, who did the tree. So
let's
he has some ability to respond. I don't consider him public. So if you want to make the board go through first, but he has to have the ability to answer.
Absolutely. And Jim might want to hear other comments before he answers. So Dave, my comment, and the board, and to Jim, my comment is that we have had a bunch of curves thrown this year at us. So we've got COVID. We have no idea if we'll even get liquid fuels next year. So I'm very concerned about the amount of money we spend. We've got Hess Mill Bridge. We thought we were going to get $272,000. Now it looks like we're going to get 175 or something. So we're going to be short. No, we thought we were going to get 350, and now we're going to get 272. So we're going to be short some money. We're going to be short 100 grand there. We don't know what's going to happen with our tax revenue this year. I think I support Dave's idea about individual projects because it gives us a chance to pull the trigger when and if we can. And we don't have control over so many variables right now that I'm very uncomfortable committing to $300,000 without knowing how the year is going to play out. That's my opinion.
So I just want one comment back to what David said, and Nancy, and then I'll comment on yours. So Dave, you made the comment that we kind of just did roads at random in the past. And that is not true. So we do, and Jim can speak to this, coring of our roads. And we use the coring to get a sense of what the road is made of and what are the chances are that things are going to fall apart. So it was not done at random. And I actually think we've done a pretty good job at identifying the roads that needed to help and doing the work on them. I agree that Cavender Lane did not come up. And
why didn't
it? And it can be added to the program, but it doesn't necessarily mean that what we've done was not done. We didn't make good decisions, but I think we made great decisions in terms of what roads to do.
So, but the question is that, we don't have a cohesive analysis of the entire road system. The last time it was done was 2007. And I was, and then I was also told there's no way to predict road failure. So the only option is to simply spend money. And I don't agree with that. And I don't like, and so we had a resident at the beginning of this meeting say, why wasn't my road considered? There's a significant issue there, right? So, well, maybe it's because we don't have the level of expert road analysis we need. Right?
David, I'm gonna answer a couple of questions here. I disagree with the way that you characterize that thing because the evaluation of road program done by Jeff Eastburn and Jim Dorazio is a very thorough investigation. And we're going to get some other third-party input from it. And I think you're going to find that their evaluation of the system of the roads that they put on the agenda is accurate.
So
we don't wait a second, I'm not finished. We don't try to understand every road failure. Make the worst roads that fit into the budget we have. Typically, we have about $500,000 a year of spend on that. So they come up with a road program cost based on the worst roads that they see that fit that budget. They don't try to identify the rest of the township because there's no point to do that because if you do that, then what happens, all that information becomes old and useless. That's what happened with the 2007 road program. I'm sure McCormick Taylor did a decent job of evaluating those roads, but in reality, they just don't come apart. And so they compare in the sequence they do.
So here's my problem, John, is everything that you just said is accurate. But if we're going to spend $500,000, we're going to the guy we're going to pay. We're saying, Jim, here's $500,000, go spend it. And he's going to spend it, whether or not, he's not going to say, you know what? You only have to spend $200,000 this year. Like that's my concern.
Actually, Jim will do that. So we don't know,
my
Jim.
point is, let's not worry about it. Let's not worry about that. Let's have a third party do the analysis.
I agree with the way you're characterizing Dorazio. I don't look down to this guy. The guy supports the township. He doesn't waste. He goes, I'm not finished yet. When he goes out on these road jobs and he finds something that isn't required, he's come back to us and spent less money than he had estimated. So he's looking out for our money. And I've seen that on a number of occasions. So to characterize him as some fly-by-night contractor, which is the disparaging comments you're making, is inaccurate. And I take offense to it. Now, there is one thing that I want to get into tonight before we go a whole lot further. Something came up today on a road failure, which is an extremely important road failure because it provides a key learning to this board who has very little experience with road failures. I'd like to spend 5 minutes and go over that thing with you and provide some technical expertise as to why it failed and why it is difficult to predict these failures. So if we could take 5 minutes and look at this photograph that we had a failure on Auburn Road today, and it's significant. It's significant in what it defines how, and that failure occurs many, many times in our township. So if we got 5 minutes, Joan, if you could put that picture up there, I'll spend a few minutes just making some points about why that failed and how it failed.
And John,
So this is the hold in Auburn Road.
Yes.
And I'll just say, John.
I'm gonna make the presentation and then you can comment, okay?
Okay.
Jeff, can you get that picture on the screen?
I'm trying, John.
All right,
John, keep talking why Jeff, because I think we've all seen it. I know I saw it in my email.
That was my point. I think we have all seen the whole. I'm not
Yeah.
sure
Wait a
if the
second.
photo is going to be that helpful.
If you want to be ignorant and not know, you can do that, but I'm still going to present it. Today, a recent road failure was identified by a resident on Facebook. That's how we found out about it. The location was on Auburn Road, north of Churchill, and it's really right at the location where Gourmet is going to put their new driveway. So understanding this failure requires some fundamental knowledge about the road construction. The photo provides a great deal of information about this typical road failure. So if you think about the typical road construction, the total thickness of the road is about 16 inches. There's 10 inches of stone, there's 4.5 inches of base asphalt, and 1.5 inches of wear coat. And each layer contributes to the overall strength of the road, although the relatively thin wear coat contributes a significant strength factor. And I don't have those values right now, but I'll get them out to you. It'll surprise you how, how strong that layer is. So look at the photo. The failed areas indicate the pothole penetrates the wear coat and into the base coat. So looking at the surface of the road surrounding the pothole, you can see the road surface is severely cracked, dividing the wear coat into many small segments. I'm sure you can all see that.
Mm-hmm. We can see it, John.
The continuous impact of vehicle traffic loosened one of those segments. That's how the failure started, and knocked one of those segments out of the hole. Then the subsequent dynamic effects of the traffic pounded the pothole out, and it would continue. If we didn't put something in there, that would just strip that pothole all the way down the road. So our experience tells us that the road surface is nearing the end of its service life once this type of failure occurs. We do not have any method to determine when the major surface failure will occur once the cracking characteristic reveals. So when you look at a cracked road like that, there's really no way to tell when this is going to occur, but we know that it will. So that's one of the unpredictable factors about it, is when you have a heavily cracked road, you have these failures, and there's no easy, I don't know any way to predict it. You could core this thing or do a roll test on it would help us, but I don't think that it will. The quick fix is to patch the pothole and develop a long-term fix once the road can be evaluated. Now, right now, the current warm weather would allow us all kinds of options to fix this thing. We can do anything we want to do with it. But if this thing developed in the wintertime, you have no option to fix it, absolutely none. So from an overall standpoint, we know this failure characteristic, the crack.
Hey, John, you sent us all this email. We read it. It's 9:15. Please, we read your email.
No.
Why are you doing this to us?
Okay, so wait a second. This is what a public meeting is about. So this is important that we have these conversations in a public meeting.
But
And
it's
let's-
going to be in a conference. You know,
Hold on a second. You have two new supervisors who have have never seen this road stuff before. I've been at it for almost over 9 years. So I've got some experience and I wanted to share it with you. You should be listening and understanding why this thing failed, because
But John, we have all the public here. I think this would be a good example of something we could do as a Board of Supervisors alone. You can educate us. That's not against the Sunshine Act. I'm not sure all the public wants to hear it, and it is getting late. You know, we have a lot of people here.
I understand that, but this is probably one of the most important programs we have is repairing these roads. So I believe it's extremely important.
I'm not denying that.
Didn't we come to what, did Jeff not patch this today? Did he go and patch?
We put a cold patch in it, but that's only a short-term thing.
And the long term is that we're waiting for the construction of the gourmet mushroom farms?
Right. I'm not sure there's anything we can do with this today, John. I mean, if you look at Chesterville Road, all it is cold patches, and we may have to live with that forever. So one cold patch on one road isn't the end of the world.
I didn't say it was, but Chesterville Road is an embarrassment to us, the fact that that thing's in our township. And
yeah, it's terrible.
Now there's something we should talk about. How do we get PennDOT more motivated to fix Chesterville Road? I mean, I spent a lot of time knocking on doors, and they say, well, let's go fix Chesterville. I mean, maybe we all get into a van and drive up to PennDOT and start yelling at people to get this thing done, because that is an embarrassment.
We've yelled at those people for years. They're tone deaf to us. They won't listen to us. But the overall point that I'm trying to make is that this cracking characteristic occurs on all our roads. It is one of the typical failures we see, and it is very difficult. There just isn't any way to really predict when this road's going to come apart.
So
I think if you look at all the roads we have on the schedule this year, they all have some of this characteristic. So that's the point I wanted to make, is the unpredictability of when this road surface fails once that level of cracking develops. So just looking at the rest of the road out toward the center, it's all cracked up. The crack pieces are bigger, but that's only a matter of time. So that's the point that I wanted to make. I hope that you got some understanding of how these failures occur. Jeff?
But I think a good point that you're making, John, and I hope, David, this answers your question. It's not like it's a total mystery what roads are going to break up. When you start seeing this extensive cracking, it's telling you it's time to consider doing something. Whether it's that year or following year, cracking is a sign, especially at the edges, that the road is deteriorating and that you need to get it into some kind of a program. So it's not all a hit and miss. This kind of a situation with all the cracks is a good sign that you're going to have a problem. I can't tell you if it's going to happen tomorrow or it's going to happen in 6 months, but it's going to happen within a relatively short period of time. You're going to have problems.
All right, so back to what are we trying to accomplish with this road discussion tonight? Are we
Well, we were supposed to agree to the roads. I mean, we had this discussion at a Friday meeting, and we came with a recommendation of several roads that we were going to do. Some of them which are going to be paid through liquid fuel money that can only be used for the road program. And my sense from David was that maybe he was a little reluctant to move ahead, that perhaps he wanted to put things on hold.
Well, I would agree with Dave. I am concerned.
Donna, I agree with Dave also.
I'm concerned about Hess Mill Bridge. I'm concerned about COVID. I'm concerned about what money we're going to get next year. I think we have to be really careful this year. And I particularly like Dave's idea going forward about bidding project by project. Now, I know this year we have a contract and I don't want to break that, but I think we have to be really careful with our money right now, extremely careful.
But we have liquid fuel money that we have to spend. I mean, it has to go for a road. It's not like you can save it.
Yeah, you can.
You can save it?
Yep.
Yeah,
Jeff?
No, you can't.
Spend it and you get it next year. But in reality, we're underspending the road. I disagree with the scope. You need to put another road on this thing. You need to be somewhere around 400,000. The road.
So again, you're going back.
I think you got to add Churchill Road to this thing and get this work done this year, because what happens is we're in an accelerated program of road improvement. And there's some fundamentals you have to do. You have to fix the roads faster than they are degrading. Because if you don't, then the quality of the roads will back up.
Right, but if we do that plan, then we had a resident today, right? Brent came forward and said, we have a serious problem on Cavender. And now we're not going to be able to do it if we follow this plan. Like, how do we fix that if we don't go ahead? Like, if we don't have a better analysis, right? And we go with your plan, those residents in Cavender aren't going to get any satisfaction. Like
David, you could go out right now and I could tell Jim and Jeff to go out and find more roads. They only come up with enough roads to fit a approximate budget we have. They could go out and find a whole lot.
That's exactly right.
If you give them severity and how bad each road is. Now, with due respect to the one on Cavender Road, it probably doesn't rise to the level of need of repair as the ones that are on our list.
But this kind of goes back to my point. You want it to rise to a budget level, right? Here's the $500,000 and then just spend it. Just go spend the $500,000 and go do it.
Yeah, that's what you have to do, because right now that is a very small budget for the roads that we have in this township. Spending any less, pretty likely you're going to back up, and it backs up faster than you can advance it.
Okay, so wait, but we're not doing that. So I think let's step back a little bit. So when we met, the money that we put out there it's about $300,000. But before anybody says anything, the caveat was that we did one road project at a time, and that we continue to reevaluate. So just as you're saying, David, if I would think, and I guess we have to make a decision at this board meeting, perhaps we say to Joan, go work with Jim and put together an estimate for what it's going to take to fix Cavender, just to have that information. And then we have to come back as a board and evaluate that to say, okay, is it going to be, I'm assuming we do Elbow Lane, but maybe it's not Gypsy Hill next. Maybe it's Cavender, or maybe it's something else. We're not committing to all of them. It's just it's a sequence, and you have to continue to evaluate as you go through each project.
Well, I think that.
I like that. I like the thought of, let's just commit to Elbow Lane right now. And we know we have to fix Laurel Bridge, and obviously those holes on Auburn that have got to get.
That's right. And I think,
that's it. Sorry, Dave. And that's it for now. And then maybe in 2 months, we find out more about Hess Mill Bridge. We find out more about what's going on with our tax revenue. And we make decisions little by little. We don't commit to 500,000 right now.
And I agree with Donna, because and it kind of ties in with John says, right? So we do one road at a time. Here, like we're going to do Elbow Lane, for example. And next month we start talking about another road, and Jim and Jeff have an opportunity to reevaluate and reprioritize. And in the meantime, when we have something blow up, like an Auburn Road did today, we're like, well, that is something that we have to do because the road blew up, right? So if we just say, let's just go do all of these, and then a road that blindsides us blows up, we can't fix it. I would rather say we're going to fix, because it's not going to take a month to fix Elbow. Like by the time we meet again, maybe Elbow's done. I'm not sure, Jim, how long it takes to do these things, but Elbow's done, and we can talk about the next road to do, right? And what the issues are with the next road. And then we make a measured approach. So when we do have an emergency like we had today that John pointed out, we're not caught flat-footed because we blew the budget because we decided in this meeting to go do all of this work. So I mean, I think Donna, you hit the nail right on the head. Yeah,
but I want to give Joan the credit for this. I didn't make this up. Joan does this all the time. It's what she does. She has her list. She showed that list with Mary, where she lays out every project and then the potential projects. Then we go down the list and we say, okay, now we're doing Elbow, because that was the one at the top of the list. And she manages the cost, and we see where we're at. And then we say, okay, well, how does the next one look? And then we have our conversations and we move into that if that's appropriate. If we have to adjust, we adjust. It's what she's been doing for years. So I think what this is about is a priority list, but it's not a commitment to do them all like without thought in between.
So my concern is
you're missing something significant in scheduling.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jeff.
You're missing something significant in scheduling here by micromanaging this thing and only piecemeal on one road at a time. You really need to authorize 2 or 3 roads at a time, because the work can't always be done in a timely manner on one road. There are all kinds of field conditions that come up that force him to move to another project. He has to have that flexibility. Secondly, this year you're starting really late. Normally the road planning is done in early March, and the road program starts as soon as the weather breaks. Here you are almost into July here, and you haven't started the program. You're already up against the end of the year here. Yeah. You may not get in what you want.
So this is probably a better reason.
This happened to us in 2018, where the weather got so bad in the end of the year, we could not finish the program. So we're already in a compressed state because we started so late.
I think that is a good reason to be a lot more deliberate with what we are doing because of our shortened time frame. not just let's start a whole bunch of projects and all of a sudden the weather turns and we can't finish them.
I'd like to say something now. I've been listening to everybody.
Go, Jim.
But, you know, David, you said you just give me $500,000 and I'm going to go out and spend it. No, that's not how I work. I want you to understand that. We said that during the road meeting. I told you, we can see everything we can in the core samples. I can show you the core samples. You know, we're not a fly-by-night company that comes out and you think we're trying to screw Franklin Township. I'm not that type of company, dude. I can show you what we found. I can show you what's going on. You know, you look at what your engineer did over at Brothers Riding. How did that work out for you? You know, since I took over, you got to give me credit. All of you's got to give me credit. That things haven't been that way. Do we have our ups and downs? Yes. Do you think I'm spending your money unwisely? You know, I take that personal. I am sorry. But, you know, you only been in 2 months. I've been here 20 years. If I screwed that much up in 20 years, then you and I need to have a conversation between you and me, and it doesn't have to be publicized.
I'm not saying that you screwed anything up. I'm talking about our process, right? And how we decide to do things, right? And so in any situation, you want to have flexibility, particularly when you're running a township. You want to have flexibility and you want to have data and understanding, right? To just say, and I'll give you an example in recent times, and I'm not saying this is you, so don't take it personally. I'm not attacking you. I think that from all accounts, John, Donna, the people with experience say you do good work. It's what your relationship is with your contractors. And so when you get too comfortable with a contractor, Kennett Township's relationship with their township manager is an example. You know, they never questioned her, right? And all of a sudden it was $3 million in the hole, and publicly that person was like, you got to trust me, I'm the best thing since sliced bread. You have to have some sort of third party taking a look at things. Just saying, you know, do you understand what I'm saying?
David, that's probably the worst example I could imagine using compared to the road program, some embezzlement that went on in Kennett Township.
John, let me just
all the way.
John, let me just stop this. So, you know what? I mean, I don't know that that was a very good example, Dave. We trust you, Jim. We appreciate everything you do. We do have to make sure we don't spend beyond our limits and our abilities. So we just have to take a different approach going forward than we've done in the past. Now, Donna, I know you say that we did it a certain way. I've only done it 2 years, but what I saw was we committed $500,000 or $600,000 and we spent it. And we didn't have meetings in between to say, should we pull the trigger on this road? Do we pull the trigger on that road? That's what we're talking about, is saying, look, let's watch the conditions. Let's see what's going on. Let's see what other roads fail. Let's see what else comes up that we didn't expect. And let's pull the trigger when we think it's appropriate. And yes, John, you're right. We may lose a little money if we can't pave 2 roads back to back. But to me, the risk of just these very uncertain times, it does not make sense to just say, let's spend $500,000 this year and let's see how it goes.
That's called a ball. And Nancy, that is exactly what I've told Joan and I've told Jeff. I am a team player here. I've been here long enough. I'm not here to, you know, skip off the top, whatever you want to say. I don't know the best way of saying it. I'm not here to do that. You called me out on the trees. You know, I didn't do anything different on those trees than what I was told to do.
Right.
I am here for you guys.
I know.
You know, and for somebody who's been here for 20 years, and the only time I get invited is the staff meetings to understand everything, you know, I don't know what to think sometimes. you know, and the things that I'm hearing tonight, you guys don't trust me. Why not? Because you don't know me? You haven't come out to a job site? You haven't seen what we've done? You know, and bid it out. You'll see the difference. And it's like John have said all the way through, you know, if I see something going wrong, I'll stop the process. If somebody else sees what's going on, as you would see over Brothers Riding, a few other places, you know, I'll just stop the process. But no, they're contracted for a certain price at a certain time. And, you know, you get what you pay for. And you're paying a hell of a lot less than what you paid through all them with your engineering costs and everything else. If you guys want me to step up the plate and take my core samples, I'll send them to an independent engineering company. I got one in Westchester, very willing to do it. You know, me and Dusty are not, you know, the new guys on the ring. Everybody has their good times and bad times. And I'm here for the township. I've been here for 20 years. You've been here 2 years. David, you've been here for a couple months. You know, tell me what I need to do, and, you know, we'll clean it up. That's all. You know, I'm here. I'm a team player. I'm here for you.
Jim, I don't want you, I don't think anyone believes you haven't done a good job. I know Mary wants to speak. I want to make sure you understand that it's not about that. It's about how do we deal with these conditions? And it sounds like you have already been talking about that. Go ahead, Mary.
Jim, I don't want you to feel that we are personally attacking you for your service to the township. I think what we're trying to tell you is these are unique times. We don't know what kind of money we're going to get next year. We have in liquid fuel money $210,000. If we do Elbow Lane at $101,100, and if we do, which seems like we have to, Auburn, that's another $72,630. We've already spent of that 210. We spent $173,734, and we haven't addressed the issue on Cavender Lane. I think that's all our liquid fuel money gone. I am really reluctant to spend money out of the general fund that we got a little bump for the nice winter. I just think we have to, I believe we could commit to that tonight, but no more. Then we have to go back and revisit it. And it has nothing to do with you, Jim. It has to do with money, whether we have it or not. I don't see where we have an option.
I agree. So if we have to vote on something today, that's what I would be comfortable voting on.
Well, so could you add Laurel Bridge to that? So it would be, I think you talked about Elbow. You talked about
Elbow?
Definitely Laurel Bridge, and have someone, and can we ask them to write up get an estimate for Cavender?
Yeah.
Can that authorize?
I can look at continued patching in Auburn, but I don't want to pave it until we know what's going to happen with Gourmet Delight, because they're supposed to pave it.
Yeah.
But we obviously have to keep patching it.
And so,
Okay.
Jim, I take this in the light in which I mean it, because I really do not mean it in a derogatory way. But the issue with Cavender, with the icing over, you know, we did extensive engineering work. Like, that project was a big project. We created a drainage system. We had the pipe going under. I mean, it was expensive and big. When you think about that problem, what would be the solution? Like, what would be how would you fix that problem? Is it a fundamental road design issue, or is it something where we can do some engineering and actually fix it?
That particular situation would actually fall under drainage.
Okay.
Because that spring that came up after the fact of doing the job. With the last 2-3 years, with the way the water tables changed, that came up. The road itself is fine. It's coming up through the seams, and you can see that in any, I'm sure you guys are familiar with Little Baltimore, where Newark Road turns in Little Baltimore. They just paved it. You have coming up out of that also. Water tables have changed. That's something when you do the jobs, you know, you don't see that until they come up. We had a problem over on Churchill when we redid that in front of Windermere, and I was able to take care of it. That's something that came up on its own.
So I think Brent is actually still on. So if maybe go ahead.
So it's not actually on Cavender. So it's not a part of Cavender Lane. It's Walker Road.
Yeah.
It's a couple 100 feet up from where the crossing was put in on the Ford farm.
Yep.
And that pond that was done. It's right at the intersection of Cavender and Walker, but it's Walker.
Spring.
And it didn't happen much this last season because of the winter that we had, but the winter before that we had, I mean, David, you drive on Walker, correct?
Oh, for sure, every day.
So then you must have driven over that ice patch that kept forming when the water kept seeping up.
Right.
So
Yeah.
what Jim was telling you is the water seeping up, it's a drainage problem, and that is what it is. And it's not a big, major, costly thing. It's just a small thing that pops up, but it's a concern. And I think my point of it is that yes, things do pop up, but Jim knew exactly what I was talking about. Jim knew that it was a drainage problem. Jim knew it was a spring where water was coming up through the road. Nobody else knew what was going on. So
right.
Jim has a pulse on what's going on in the township, and he knows a road and he knows an issue that's going on without anyone else, even people that live on that road, understanding what's going on. So
I guess the question, Brent, is you asked the board why this road wasn't considered. And so that's why I brought it up. Not that Jim's not smart enough. I think Jim's qualified to understand it.
Jim's the only person that
yeah,
knew
so why
on
wasn't it, but I guess your question was prioritization, right? And why wasn't it, why didn't we prioritize this problem that was significant? Because you felt that
it was significant.
You said that we were we'll go back, but you were talking about this as a problem and why we didn't fix it as part of the road program. And I agreed with you. If it was a problem, we should fix it, and we got you an answer. And now you're saying it's not a significant problem.
Well,
so then maybe it's not.
Issue. Okay, David, you drive on this road every day, and you thought it was an issue with the pond, and it's not. So it's just to my point that Jim really knows what's going on in the township. That's it.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks, Brent. And I appreciate that. And I appreciate your support of Jim.
Okay, Nancy, can I
Okay.
say something? If we want to conserve money, if we do Elbow, Laurel, a patch on Auburn, and whatever this Cavender and Walker intersection, we will be at almost 232,000 plus the issue at Cavender and Walker. And we have 210 in liquid fuel. I really don't want to commit to spend any more money than that. It has nothing to do with you, Jim Dorazio. It's all about money and the current economic situation. And I don't know why, if this was a problem with the intersection at Cavender and Walker, it didn't make our list at all. So it can't be a problem. Can we ignore it?
Let's let that go and let's just vote because we have 4.
Let's vote because it's getting late.
Hold on, I want to hear the motion again because I'm reading the motion here that I printed out and it's not matching up to what you're saying.
Right, we got to change the motion. We have to rewrite the motion. So Mary, do you want
the motion you had is grossly insufficient.
It's okay. I know, John.
To cut it any further is just absurd. It's financially irresponsible.
Okay, and we still have to vote and we might not all agree. And there's no reason why we can't come back later in the year and spend more. This is committing to these roads, okay?
The wrong attitude.
Okay. All right, Mary, do you think you can read out the motion or do you want me to try?
Yeah, go ahead, Nancy. You tried. I think, yeah.
So I make a motion that the Board of Supervisors authorize the township manager to move forward with implementing the 2020 road program with the following roads: Elbow Lane, stormwater work on Laurel Bridge Road, patching on Auburn Road, and Walker Road as needed. What did I miss? What does that sound like? Does anybody want to second that? And so that comes up to a total of $230,000, Mary?
Can I say one thing, please?
Sure. I mean, let me just get a second and then we can have more discussion, okay? All right,
I'll second it.
Okay, so Mary's seconding it. Okay, discussion.
Can I just want to clarify, the price that Jim gave us for Auburn Road that Mary included in there, the 70-some thousand dollars, was the other section. It's not near Gourmet. So he'd have to give us a different price for that. It's not 72,000.
Right, just for patching, which is about 9,000. I just drove Auburn Road yesterday and, you know, obviously it's not perfect, but the worst part is in front of Gourmet Delight, which is the part we really can't do. So, I mean, the whole part of it. So my recommendation is patching in front of Gourmet until we know more about our budgets. So that's 8,000. So Mary, I guess, John, what you're saying is, Mary, did you add 73,000 or 8,000 on Auburn Road?
I added Elbow, 101,
Okay.
Laurel Road, 121, Auburn Patch, 8802.
Laurel Road isn't 121. Laurel Road is, we're just doing the.
And how much is that?
Not much, you know.
Joan,
It's like 6,000. It's like $5,885. So it's about 6,000.
Right, 6,000, okay.
What we want to do on Laurel.
Right.
Now, if we want to do the upper part of Auburn, that's 73,000.
Okay.
And
Before you say that 72,000 was actually from North Creek Road to the Keene Farm where we just paved. Now, as long as that linear foot is the same, yes, we can change that over to that side and come out the same linear feet. So I just want to make sure everybody's clear on that part.
okay, Jim. I think what we're saying is we hold off on Gypsy Hill for now.
Right.
If we do Auburn, I don't have a problem with doing that. We have to patch. And then the stormwater, which is only 6,000. So that takes us to 180 for right now.
For right now, and then
Okay.
we can look at it again after that.
So I
So
have,
help me understand. We thought when we had the road meeting, we felt Gypsy Hill was more important than Auburn. I mean, acknowledging the patch has to get done, and I don't even look at that as a capital project. Patching, that has to get done. So it's going to be a couple $1,000s for patching. Why are we now putting Auburn in front of Gypsy when we all were in agreement that it's Elbow first and then it was Gypsy?
well, we could just patch Auburn and just wait to make a decision. I think that's a fair point, Donna. We should really take more time to think about which is more important, Auburn or Gypsy. So
Oh, see, that's not where I mean, if I had to play that game, I'd say do Auburn just to do more roads, but I would prefer to do Elbow or Gypsy and then stop it. I would prefer Elbow, Gypsy, Laurel Bridge, the swale, and then if you have to reevaluate at that point. But don't just stop just at Elbow.
well, unfortunately, when we had that meeting, we didn't know that we were going to have to kick in another 100,000 for Hess Mill.
Right.
That's the difference.
Oh, so we're leaving Auburn out. So you could do Elbow and Gypsy. You could, okay, let me just put this. You could do Elbow and Gypsy or Elbow and Auburn, and then hold off until you make any more decisions. But don't just stop at Elbow. It's not enough.
You just made the point that we really need to step back and say which is more important, Auburn or Gypsy.
We already did. We said it was Gypsy at the meeting.
Obviously, Auburn has kicked up some problems. So
It's a whole different area. It's a patch. It's a patch you have to do. It's a different part. We weren't even looking at that part.
I don't think there's an urgency to pick either one. I think you made a good point. I think we just take our time. We drive out there and, you know, maybe in 2 weeks, if we have to have another public road meeting, we have another public road meeting. I think, we all can commit to Elbow. We can all commit to the swale work on Laurel Bridge, the stormwater problems. Obviously, the patching on Auburn. Maybe that's just all we do today.
Yeah.
For my 2 cents, for everything that everybody's talked about, I agree. In the way you're thinking, the traffic and, and that kind of thing. And the money, like I said, I'm a team player. I'm not there just, whatever. But I know you spent money on Elbow Lane, but if you take the other roads, maybe Elbow should be our third one or second one and take care of more of Auburn Road because of the traffic or Gypsy Hill because of the traffic. I'm just throwing ideas out. I'm not trying to, start anything. I've been listening to you guys since you guys started. I'm trying to help, give you my best opinion.
I hear what you're saying, Jim. You're saying that from a resident's perspective, the greater need may be Auburn or Gypsy, as opposed to Elbow.
Yeah, if you think about, I don't know why I'm up on there, but if you
Sci-fi.
Next meeting, I'm on my deck too, buddy. For sure.
I apologize. I should have kept my mouth shut, and we could have done Elbow and Auburn, and we would have gotten to where we needed to be. So can we just forget the last 5 minutes and go with what Nancy was saying and do Elbow, Auburn, and Laurel Bridge, swale, and come back later?
What do you guys think, everybody?
I'm good.
Okay, Mary?
I'm good with that.
Okay, John, you're not going to be good.
I object to what you're doing. It is completely inadequate. And Nancy, I fully understand your attitude toward road maintenance. And I'll go back to a road maintenance workshop meeting we had on Friday, March 2nd, 2018. The meeting was long, 2 hours, because there are many issues and details are discussed by the board, staff, and contractor. The meeting was your first exposure to road maintenance supervisor. After hearing the entire discussion very near the end of the meeting, and made a specific comment that characterizes your attitude toward the road program. I was surprised by it and made a specific note. Here's your quote. Quote, Franklin Township does not have to have the best roads. Nancy Morris, March 2nd, 2018. I fully understand where you're coming from. You've got no value for this program, and I suspect that you're trying to divert funds to some other hidden agenda project.
Do you think we can afford to have the best roads?
Well, let's not go down here. So, guys, we're so close to getting past it.
I know.
Can we please agree to Elbow Lane, Auburn Road, Laurel Bridge swale, and have Jim work up some kind of estimate for Walker and Cavender just to bring back to the board for later discussion?
Yes.
Can we agree on that?
Donna, can I ask the question? When you say Laurel Bridge, are you talking about stormwater?
Yeah.
Swale. Okay.
Stormwater.
Sorry, I wasn't trying to slip one in on you. I don't.
No, I just didn't know. I have numbers everywhere. Change. I don't know what the hell we're talking about. Oh, and John, I want to say something to you. Really like you to think about this. If you're worried about Nancy diverting money, we could be diverting 100 to that Hess Mill Bridge project. It looks like we're going to, and you put a lot of work and effort into that. And we could need 100 more thousand for that to be a reality.
I'm not sure 100,000. There's some numbers that don't add up right now, and Joan and I can't resolve it.
But it's not looking that great. I mean, we may not get it. And do we want to wait to see if we get it? I think, like you said before,
it's amazing. It's amazing to me that there's a pushback of there is a potential $100,000 bill that is going to be sent to Franklin Township, and you're okay with it, John, because you think you might be able to fix it in the back end, maybe, but if you don't, then all of a sudden we are $100,000 in the hole, right? So if we go ahead with your road program and just spend $500,000, whether or not it's a good idea or not.
We're not spending $500,000.
Let me just,
We're not spending it.
Donna, let me
Well,
just.
no, I know, but the point is John's upset that we aren't agreeing to the $500,000 a year program that has been historically what the board had agreed to.
Well, you don't have $500,000 anymore. You only got about 400,000.
That's right, and it might just be 300.
And the only reason we have
And
that.
it might just be 300.
The only reason we have that is because we didn't have a rough snow winter. So I think, come on. I mean, we've got to be realistic, John. You can't have we can't have perfect roads. We don't have the money. I mean, if you want to raise taxes, that's up to you, but I do not want to. We have a fixed budget, John, and we have to live with that.
That's a non-starter for me. So
Let me just finish. So, we don't know what COVID's going to do. I mean, we've said it a number of times now. We have no idea if we'll get any liquid fuel money next year. And we have a bridge that we've all agreed has to get done. So let's be realistic. Let's not pretend that this is, that we can do whatever we want. It's not possible. So let's vote, okay? I make a motion that the Board of Supervisors authorize the township manager to move forward with implementing the 2020 road program with the following roads: Elbow Lane, Auburn Road, including patching, and stormwater management on Laurel Bridge Road. Do I have a second?
I will second that.
Okay, I think we've had enough discussion. Let's just vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Sorry.
All opposed, say nay.
nay, the program you have is completely inadequate. Amateurs.
The motion passes 4-1. Okay, does anybody need a break? I mean, we have probably another 45 minutes to go.
I don't need a break.
Everybody okay if we keep going?
Yeah, I'm good.
Can I just, I know this wasn't part of your motion, but we are going to give Joan the okay to work with Jim on an estimate for Cavender?
Yeah.
At least get a sense of what that may cost?
Yeah, let's get an estimate.
Yes, I will work with Jim on
And
that.
to be specific, it's not Cavender. It's,
Right, it's Walker.
It's the intersection between Cavender and Walker.
And what I mean, Brent, is that it's not necessarily the biggest problem. Brent simply wanted to make the point that he really values Jim's work, and I think, but I'm not quite sure, but.
Yeah, so he just said it's not a big problem, but I think we should look at it because it's part
Jim
of
and
our
I
road.
understand, and we will look at it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want you to know, I'm really trying hard to follow the sunshine rules and making sure that we agree to do it here, so.
Yeah. No, thank you.
Okay. All right, so now another popular topic. So really, for Elbow Lane tree work, all I want to say is that, Jim, I know you guys did a good job. It was a fair price, but in terms of, you're not arborists, okay? And arborists do things a little bit differently. So we just have to go back and look at it and decide that it's safe. So I think someone mentioned we may have to grind stumps. And that the way the trees are cut, they're not compromised so that anyone gets hurt. That's and I think also, I mean, we're lucky no one got killed because I think the live wire got hit. I certainly don't want to see anyone get hurt doing tree work. It's very dangerous. Does anyone have any other comments on Elbow Lane? Otherwise, we'll move on.
Yeah,
I do.
So I think that, okay, Mary, go first.
Well, I've been down Elbow Lane. I feel like I live there. I've been there so many times. Based on a couple certified tree arborists that came out and looked at the work, the consensus is there are some trees that will be compromised because of how they were limbed up, but leave them alone and see what happens. They could stand for a couple more years. But they all agreed the stumps are way too high and it's a danger for motorists. So I would like to ask you, Jim, can you and your guys get out there and bring those stumps down, and we'll let the rest of the trees go, and then we're at the price you gave us. So that's how I feel about Elbow Lane.
Yeah, I think, Mary, you summed it up nicely. I think it's, we saw some issues and we need to fix them.
I have no problem with that. And Nancy, that's when you and Mary and myself and Jeff and Joan walked down through there. I asked you if you guys had any concerns, any thoughts, any input. You know, I have no problem doing that. I told you I'm a team player.
Right.
You know, I'm not the guy that just came through and, and did it.
Yep, appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've worked with arborists and everything else. And Mary, what you just said, that's what we said when we cut the trees. They have a chance. We didn't want to take everything out because that's what everybody was worried about, was us taking out so many trees. So, we try to do our best on selecting the trees to take out. And, okay, have Jeff come out, show us the stumps. I don't want to take every stump out because I do get to the point where it is stabilization for that bank, and there's a lot of water that runs down there.
I agree with you, Jim. I think it's the ones that are concerning everyone are the ones closest to the road where maybe a distracted driver could hit them. And there's a big, what do you call it? Norway maple that's very close to the road. That one, that was everybody's really huge concern. So, but I agree with you. Don't take all the stumps out. They are stabilizing the bank.
And I have no problem with that, Mary.
That's great.
Ever.
Great.
But imagine what it would have been with that tree standing there. If that tree was still there, you go down the London Britton side, you'll see aluminum sticking in the side of the tree from a trailer.
Well, Jim, I agree with you, except here's the deal. When those stumps that are high, there's going to be vegetation that's going to grow over them. And as a driver, if you're on your cell phone, which you shouldn't be, you're going to think that's vegetation. You're not going to realize, there's a 4-foot stump under that. So I guess, that's a little different than a tree. The full tree, you might not hit that. I don't know. But as long as you're willing to bring them down, I think that's great. And I appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am. That's what I said to the resident when we were out there, you just didn't have the stump, but you had all the debris going up alongside of it. And with the road bank mowing, we cannot take that off. I mean, that becomes part of the tree. As much as we try to cut it back. But yes, I agree with you 100%. Like I was saying, London Britton's got aluminum from a trailer stuck in a tree if you go down around the corner right before you get to their parking lot.
Do any residents want to add anything?
I have a question.
Okay.
Whatever came about
Can you identify yourself, please?
Yeah, I'm Randy from Parsons Road. I'm part of the township. I'm a resident. I'm a concerned resident. And, after seeing some of the Facebook posts, I'm more concerned with whatever came about the slandering part about the harvesting of the trees.
What part was slandering, Randy?
Where you said the workers were hauling them out on a flatbed and getting them harvested. I mean, that was more like slander, like you were saying they were stealing from the township.
And I didn't want to, I said the trees are being harvested, and that is what happened. The trees were put on a flatbed and taken to a local farm.
And also in that same Facebook page, you had said you were getting estimates from other tree companies, arborists and such.
Yes, we did.
I kind of feel as a resident, you went to social media for the outcry. I kind of feel like it should have been publicized, the estimates as well, to see how well Jim did take care of us, because I do back Jim's work a lot with the township. I respect his work and what the work his guys do. And, that's just my opinion.
Okay. Well, I mean, I don't want to put anyone on the spot. The estimates were either lower or similar to Jim.
Randy, if I could comment, they were all free estimates. They didn't cost the township anything. And they were pretty, well, one was an email estimate, but the rest were verbal. And they were ballparking it as close as they could because the tree work had already been done. It wasn't like they were looking at it before
Yeah. So
the limbing
Randy,
and the tree was taken down.
and so Randy, would you like us to publish the other estimates and the discussion of the work on our website? Would that be helpful for you, or on Facebook?
I mean, now that it's part of this meeting and, this meeting's publicized, anybody can see it. Now the input's out there, in a ballpark figure. It just kind of seemed, I was curious as to whether or not Jim.
Well, you're just accusing people of slander and being secretive. Would it be helpful for in the future for a resident to show all of these estimates and evaluations against our current contractors?
If it's an open bid, I feel somewhat, yes.
Well, it's not a bid, it was an evaluation.
But if it goes to social media, then yes, because, if it doesn't go to social media, then no.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't think we should be talking about this stuff in social media. But to your point, I think it's important. Maybe we should, if we talk to a third party, we publish the third party findings. I think you brought up a good point.
I think it's a valid point as well.
I think to your earlier point, Randy, a lot of this came out because two supervisors in a meeting approved the tree work before the road work was even approved. And so this is where the Sunshine Act came out. So half the supervisors didn't even know it was happening. 2/3 of the supervisors didn't know it was happening. And that's unfortunate. That is unfortunate. And so ultimately we wanted to make sure that the township, we're not spending this time because we have nothing better to do. What we're trying to do is make sure the township gets the best value and that the work we do is the best work it can be. This is not slamming Jim at all. I just see it as our job. And so, take it for what you want. I'd rather not publish estimates because I don't think it's fair to Jim or anyone else, because there's a lot more that goes into it than just a number. And first of all, we have to make sure that we, anyone can give an estimate, but you have to build a relationship and make sure their work is good. So that wouldn't be my choice to do that. But, you can always call any of us and talk to us personally.
Oh, that's fair enough. And again, the accident that happened on Elbow Lane could have happened at even a arborist, a certified arborist. Wind, anything plays a factoring role in that. So fair enough. Thank you guys for your time.
All right. Thanks, Randy.
All right, I have one clarification.
Sure.
I have one clarification I want to make on what your comments, Nancy. You said that that tree work was done illegally.
Not illegally.
Less than a week after that, we ratified that decision in a June 5th board meeting, and we voted in favor of it 5-0. You voted for it.
The only issue, John, was the work.
Sounds like selective memory.
No, John, the only issue, John, the only issue with that was the work was begun before we actually ratified it. That was what made it illegal. That is what made it illegal. You started the work before we agreed to it. So you're just like, well, we already started. What do we do?
Well,
so John,
what if we hadn't approved Elbow Lane? Okay.
Again,
it's against the law, okay? It's against the law. We've got to stop doing it. End of story, okay?
No, it's not the end of the story.
John, we agreed.
Ratification, which is
John, we fixed your
collective memory.
John, we fixed your illegal behavior. That's what we did. We fixed it. You made an illegal decision. The work was done outside of board authority, and then we had to fix it. That is what happened. That is why we had an executive session to stop that kind of behavior. And it's not, and you know what? Only reason I'm bringing this up is because you brought up a quote from Nancy 2 years ago. We did this because when my first day, when I became a supervisor, I went into the office and started asking about how decisions were made. why decisions were made. And I was told we didn't need board authority because John Auerbach got whatever he wanted. I was told that specifically. John Auerbach got whatever he wanted, and up until Nancy got on the board, every single vote went 5-0. Then after Nancy got on the board, every single vote went 4-1. So then I say, okay, well, that's interesting. That explains a lot. So maybe we should start looking at staff meetings and how things are being made, how decisions are being made. So I am done listening to you talk about revisionist history, talk about how we are trying to revise how decisions are made. This was the John Auerbach show up until the new board. So I do not want to hear any more BS about you saying that everything was above board and we are trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes. That is how the township was run until we took over. And I'm done trying to be polite. That's the truth.
I don't intend to be polite, but the difference between the current board and the prior board is the prior board had a very consistent policy, and most of the supervisors agreed with it. Now we have a divided.
The policy was do whatever you said, John. That was the policy. The policy was do whatever.
5 individual supervisors.
Should I read, John? Should I read the letter you wrote to Joan after our first meeting? Shall I do that? You wrote a letter to Joan after our first meeting when Mary and I decided to stop the culvert bridge process, a bridge that was designed in a staff meeting. You wrote her a letter saying all communications should flow through you specifically. You should be made aware of anything being done. So John,
that wasn't the case. The issue was that the issue was she brought a resident into the discussion with our engineer and then wouldn't allow myself to talk to the engineer.
I don't think that was the case.
That is exactly the case.
John, do you understand that you've broken the law? I mean, I'm not sure you even understand that.
All right, I just feel like we're disintegrating into something that we don't really need to get to. So we had this conversation about the Sunshine Act. We've all done things that we shouldn't have done, and I'll be one of the first people to admit to it. Can we just move on? If this is a personal conversation that needs to take place, can that be taken place on your own?
Yes.
I agree, Donna. I agree. Let's move on.
Let's move on. So next is the interim road and maintenance contract. Mary, do you want to take that one?
All righty. The 2021 interim road and maintenance contract discussion. It's not a motion. What do we want to do about that? Hold on, wrong paper. Sorry. It's getting late, guys, for me.
So Mary, it is the interim road and maintenance contract discussion. Joan, so what we've said is that we want to rebid our road work for next year.
For next year.
Yeah, now Joan, the contract that you put in the book includes road maintenance, paving, salting, and grass cutting. So it's going to be very difficult to find anybody other than Jim who's going to bid on that contract. Most pavers don't want to cut grass, okay? So I think we're going to need to break it out and break the paving out separately. And then if you want to keep the other things together, that's up to you guys. But I am very clear that I think we need to pull out the paving.
There are 3 different bids. They're not all combined. There is the interim road program, which is the maintenance and paving, okay? Then there is mowing, which is a separate bid, entirely separate. And then there is the snow plowing, which is a third that is entirely separate.
I think we better split out the maintenance from the paving, because as you said, last time you didn't get any other bids. So I think I would be more comfortable putting the maintenance in with the other areas so that someone who all to do is paving, then we get those people bidding who we might want them to bid. You know, the pavers don't want to necessarily do all the maintenance. So let's find the best way for our township to get the best interest back.
Wrong. What have I done wrong that you pull the paving out of me? For the amount of money that I spent in Franklin Township on the equipment and everything, And out there, me spending the time, like I told you, I do not charge you for that. Problem do you have with me?
Well, what are you suggesting, Jim? That we never rebid?
No, I'm asking you what problem you have with me.
Nothing. We haven't rebid in 5 years. I mean, that's just good practice to rebid. And if you rebid in a way that no one else is interested, it doesn't really do the township any good. It's not personal at all, Jim. It's a, you know, I look at the township's money as even more important than my money, because I know a lot of people work really, really hard for their $30,000 a year salary, $40,000 a year salary, whatever. Every penny counts to me. And I mean, people around me any length of time. No, that's my passion. So I appreciate, Jim, you've done a great job for us, but we have to rebid. That's all there is to it.
Fine.
Jim, I hope you can see why we want to do this. It's like best practices. We're almost required to do this for our residents. And you could come up and we'll tell the residents, do you have any idea how lucky we are to have Jim Dorazio? Look at his prices, look at his work. This could, if you do what you tell us you do, this could be a real gold star for you. But we're required to do this, to be able to show our residents, here's how we're spending your money, and we're doing the best we can with it. Don't take it personal, Jim. It's not any reflection on you. It's just what we have to do.
I will say I do take it personal to a certain point, but I do understand that things have to go out to rebid. I have no problem with that. But for the couple things that have been said, whether it's been via Facebook or this meeting, you know, I feel a doubt that I've given you the quality of work that I should have. And, you know, I want to know what the reason is, because.
Okay, Jim. So I see Brent is saying you have to have a reason allowed within the contract to rebid work. That is not true. The contract is done at the end of this year, okay? Now, all the other townships that we've talked to rebid work every year. And actually, they're shocked that we haven't rebid in 5 years. So that's a testament to you. But that doesn't mean we can do that forever. There's nothing wrong with the quality of your work. It is simply due diligence on our part.
Nancy, that's fine.
Sorry. So I don't think we're saying, Jim, that your work that we've agreed to this year we're rebidding for. We're just talking about next year, yes?
Right.
And about the process of starting that process. Like, it's not you're done this year, Jim. Like, we're just saying, look, we've got this year-over-year process, and we want to have some due diligence. And to your credit, like, the point is, you have done the amount of access and quality of work. Why would we change? The point is, we have to, as a board, invite other bids. And then part of that bid is, well, look at the service we're receiving now. And from what you're saying, no other contractor in their right mind could match you. So you shouldn't be concerned, right? So like, it's not a we got to get Jim out of here. It's we have to have a process, and we have to rebid, and we'll go through that process. And you're part of that rebid process. Like, you're not an employee of Franklin Township, right? You're a contractor, and that doesn't diminish the quality of the work that you do or the history that you've had with the township, but the fundamental relationship is a contractor. So we have to treat you at that level as a contractor and say, at the end of this year, we have to go and look at our road system and our park system and get some bids, right? So that's normal business. Like, you're in this business, so you would understand. Like, you understand that it's not like I don't know you. It's not a personal attack. It's the relationship we have between Franklin Township and the contractor that we have assigned to do the work. Right. I mean, I don't know how to say it any
we may choose to rebid every year, which seems to be best practice. So we're just trying to do the best we can for the township. Not to say that things haven't been great. You know, it's just, we've just got to keep moving forward and doing, as we learn, the things that we think are right. And so hopefully you'll rebid and hopefully you'll be the best price, and that'll, like Dave says, that'll be a no-brainer. We have to say we did it. And we have to do it with all intent of having it be a fair process. So if we create bids that we know no one else will bid on, that's not really a fair process. Or we create contracts that we don't think anyone else will bid on, that's not an appropriate process.
And Nancy, if it was any other way, I'd be upset myself, because I do want to be out there with everybody else. I want to be honest with what I do. My honest work, obviously, you know, we're publicized. So, you know, I'm speaking for myself. I understand what you're saying, but like I said a little bit ago, I said there was a couple things that, you know, I felt like, you know, things were coming back on me, especially you saying we need to pull the paving out of that contract when that paving has been in my contract for the last 6 years, and now you're changing that contract. I just feel like there's something there.
Well,
And
the reason I'm changing it is because Donna said, or Joan said, no one else will bid on it. So the only reason I can think that no one else will bid on it is because the maintenance and the paving don't really go together for a lot of paving companies. So what else are we going to do, or else no one else is going to bid on it again? I've asked Joan, why won't anyone else bid on it? I don't know. Well, I have to interpret to the best of my ability and say the combination of things don't work for most contractors. And so then what's the point? What's the point of bidding and not really intending to bid?
I might shoot myself in the foot on this one, but I'm going to ask the question because I'm the type of person, and anybody that knows me knows that that's the way I am. I'm passionate in what I do. I give you as 200% of work, but I feel like you feel, damn it. I feel like you think I failed you guys, and I want to know why.
Please don't feel that way.
No, that's not where we're going.
Not at all, Jim. Please don't feel that way. I feel like you're feeling unloved tonight by the Board of Supervisors. That's not the case.
That's
we're
not
just
where
trying
going.
to do the right thing.
Like and that's one of the things that there's. So take this in the spirit of what I mean this by is there are times when there are conversations where you have to be honest. And you wouldn't be in the conversation. It would just be the Board of Supervisors having the conversation, because we're trying to work through something without making you feel personally attacked. Do you understand? And so when we're having this conversation now, we're working through ideas and concepts in real time. And so you're like, well, Dave just said this, right? But you'll hear like, John countered me, right? And there was a thought in my head. And because you're in it, you're experiencing all of the conversation in real time. So it's not like I'm sitting here going, oh, I cannot wait to take Jim Dorazio out tonight. It's I'm working through what I'm thinking in real time, because you point out I'm 2 months in, or however, 6 months in to my tenure, and I'm working out my thoughts. And the only people I can work out my thoughts are with this group here. And so those are honest thoughts. And so you're hearing it in real time, right? And so you're going to say, well, Dave's so totally wrong. And I'm feeling offended. And I'm like, well, I'm still trying to work out my thoughts. And so John came up with a response, and I said, okay, I'll internalize that. And I understand that now. And Mary came up with her thoughts. Okay, I understand that now. So it's not let's get Jim out of the picture. It's how does the process work? How does Jim get his work done? Like all of that. And so I'm questioning, how do I say this? I'm questioning the process. I'm not questioning Jim Dorazio. Does that make sense? I don't know if that made sense or not.
Yes, it did.
Okay.
And I do appreciate it, because I feel like I am part of the team, looking at everybody on the screen here. You know, from Joan to Jeff and Sharon and everybody, John, Joan, Mary, you, and Nancy. I'm just going through the screen. Oh, I forgot Mark. But, you know, I think we are a team. And, you know, because I am passionate, I do speak my piece. And I know it's the first time you guys have heard it. I've been kept quiet, but you know, I do appreciate work for Franklin Township, and I hope Franklin Township is proud of me working for them.
Thank you, Jim. I think we all are.
Thank you, guys.
All right. So where are we?
So Joan, did you get enough guidance on rebidding to get started with Jeff?
Yes, we'll work on the
Any further?
the bid application.
Okay. Okay, John, you have the next one if you feel like it.
I make a motion that the Board of Supervisors authorize the Township Manager to prepare an RFP to gather estimates for a new auditing firm to perform the 2020 Township audit.
I'll second that. Oh, okay. I was going to go for it.
Okay, motion is second. We have discussion.
Well, I mean, Jim, there's probably no better example for you to see that it isn't just about you. That's the auditing contract's gone 5 years. And Dave and Mary were just in training and they said, best practices, you have to revisit your auditor.
Yeah, so and I'll just, I know this meeting's going late, and I apologize, but you know, one of the things that came out of the training that Mary and I went to, and I got to say, you know, for all of us on the board, I just sent a note to PSATs today on some questions. They're a really good resource for us to learn about stuff. We're a member and we should use them. So during that training, there was a couple of township managers, and they said something that made a lot of sense to me, that every 5 years, we should change our auditing firm, period. Straight up, change our auditing firm every 5 years. Because what happens is you start to develop a relationship that might be too close with the auditing firm. So you start getting a shorthand. And you can see it, I see it in my business life. You create a shorthand and, oh yeah, you do it this way. And so if you change it up every 5 years, it's a fresh restart. You get a new set of eyes and a new system that looks at the work that we're doing in the township. And it's, again, to kind of go back to what we were talking about with Jim, it's not an indictment of Joan's work as a treasurer. It's not an indictment of our current auditing firm. It's about how do you get the best work and the best set of fresh eyes every 5 years. And so my personal view is we're going to do this, is every 5 years, Franklin Township should be looking at a new auditing firm to go through the books. And that's just how we do business. It's nothing personal. It's nothing that, Barbara Kane Thornton did wrong. It's that it's time now to look at other firms. So that's, and again, just, I know it was a bad example earlier, and I apologize because it was just the only thing that came to my mind. But now a good example is what happened with Kennett. And I think that you have to have fresh set of eyes every 5 years. And again, it's not an indictment of Joan. Like, I don't think Joan's doing anything wrong. It's that these guys were used to doing things a certain way. So why not so now the best practice is to change every 5 years. So that's what I propose, that we start looking at, a general policy moving forward is that we assign a new auditing firm every 5 years, and this is part of that process.
Any more discussion?
Well, just to be clear, this doesn't change a policy. This just puts for this particular situation.
Right, there's no
And that would
policy.
be another, not that we have to do this tonight, but what this does, just agree to go look for one, which I think is.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I used the word policy, but it probably, it's just that the best practice was every 5 years. And then this year, this is what we're going to do is we'll look for someone new.
And there is no policy associated with which auditing firm we use, so we don't have to change anything.
Right.
Correct.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Who seconded the motion?
I did, Donna.
Okay, anything from the public? Okay, then I guess
Are we at the end of the meeting, or is this
So,
public? comment?
no, we get Donna at the end. Donna needs to
We're
make a
close.
motion.
Oh, sorry.
There.
We have to take a vote. We have to take a vote.
Oh, yeah. We need to vote on.
John.
Auditing. John, you want to do that?
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Favor, opposed, say nay. Motion carries 5-0.
All right.
Donna, bring us home.
Okay, well, I will do the next motion, but I would like us to talk about Hesmo Bridge. As once
Oh,
again,
yeah.
to the Sunshine Act,
Okay.
we got to do it now because we can't do it by email, so we should
Yep.
a short
We'll
discussion.
do this one and then we'll come back to Hesmo Bridge.
Correct, okay, so don't want to get your hopes up high for bringing you home, but we'll get through this.
We'll get
So
there.
I make a motion that the board adopt resolution 2020-15 in support of Chester Water Authority and expressing concerns about the proposed actions in light of Governor Wolf's declaration of fiscal emergency for the city of Chester. Can I have a second, please?
I will second that.
Okay, David. Any discussion?
Yeah, just a little bit. I mean, what's happening here is a private company wants to buy this public company. And this happens with some frequency. And what usually happens is the cost of the ratepayers usually doubles. It's a very negative thing on the ratepayer. You say, well, why does that happen? Well, a private company has to pay dividends. They have to make a profit. They've got other costs that they want to recover. So that's what drives the cost up. Hopefully, Chester Water can retain it. But I support the resolution. I just wonder how effective we might be because the city of Chester has gone into receivership now. That the state of Pennsylvania can manage their affairs. State of New Jersey manage Canada. So I'm not sure how strongly they can resist this takeover thing, but I'm a supporter of the measures. I just wanted to provide a little bit of background on it.
Yeah, I agree, John. This is something that sounds like a cop out. I agree with you. Absolutely.
Earlier, I attended a fair number of meetings up in Penn Township when this first got started.
Yeah.
My assessment of listening to all the discussion is that for them to retain ownership is going to be difficult.
Yeah,
But it certainly would not help our residents if it gets privatized.
Oh, not at all.
No, this is.
Their rates, many of these contracts have some clauses in them that control the escalation of rates, but they eventually in a couple of years get up there.
Yeah. Okay, should we vote?
Sure, let's vote. Okay, so all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Okay, motion carries 5-0. Okay, so then I just want to open it up to just talk about Hesmo Bridge.
Yeah.
Joan, I don't know whether you could just give us a quick update on what's going on. I know there was some email out there, but I don't think we'll solve anything, but I think we should know what the situation is.
Yeah.
And then when do we need to make the decision?
Okay, as of now, the Conservation District said they have $272,141 to honor our grant application. And they said we could either take that now or if we would want to wait further down the line to see if we could come up with the rest of the money. It's something that we need to decide, if we want to do that. if we took it now, it obviously would throw more of the burden on the township because we have to pay the difference in kind. Now, one of the things John had asked me to look at the numbers that were submitted for our bid, and I did. And John, I re-added those up a couple times, and it still comes to the amount that's on there, which is the cost is $371,450, and then you have to add on the $75,000 that we're paying for permitting, engineering, and construction oversight. So the total project is $446,451. Now, what I would like to do with the board's permission is reach out to Ron, and Jim has given some of his input on some of these prices too, and see if there's something that we can do to maybe tighten up some of these numbers and see if we could get this project reduced a little bit so we know, if we can put in less than the $100,000 that we're short. So I'd like to.
John, we already have expended some of these funds, so we want to make sure that we get credit for what we've already spent.
We have spent $12,315 with Ron in the engineering and permit application and the bid package.
Okay, so that's got to be counted into it. That expense is already behind us.
So on the plus side, we were looking at 450 of our own money, thanks to some smart work by the team there, Jeff and others. They found a grant. I think it's the Chester County Conservation District. We were hoping to get $350 for the grant. We were planning on, or $375. We were planning on only committing $75. It hasn't gone completely our way, but I think, my personal opinion is, Joan, certainly go out and look, but I think a bird in hand is better than two in the bush. I know that bridge needs to be replaced. Yep. And I think we agree to go forward and do the work.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the one that you would have a waiting period of time, not knowing what's going to happen with the state of Pennsylvania and their costs, that money could disappear on us. That's the word. If we knew we could get it next year, we could probably delay it for a year, but that would worry me.
It's not worth it.
It's unfortunate the way this happened here.
Yeah. I mean, I can't agree more, John, because I think that, this is a problem. When we first, for those still on the line, when we first started talking about this, we put the brakes on simply to wait to see if we got grant money. That was the only reason we did it. We didn't do it for any other reason, and we got this grant money. And I think continuing to delay, it would absolutely be a mistake, because we have the money. We know what we can now control the cost at least. And with everything going on in the world right now, we need to be very specific.
Yeah, the other thing we did get a break on, the bid for the bridge itself came in significantly lower than what was in the estimate. Joan, you remember what those numbers were, but it was significantly lower. That softens the thing a bit.
The arch structure in the estimate was $216,000, and it's my understanding, I have to double check that, but I thought I just saw the letter confirming that it's $216,000 from Contact.
No.
So the good news
I'll
is,
go back and look at the numbers. That came in lower than the estimate.
okay. Well, the good news is we are getting $272,000 from the Conservation District, and that is not small change.
No, it's hard to pass that up. It's just unfortunate that we're stuck in this.
I agree with you, John. It is unfortunate. We're not getting it, but I think we got to get what they're giving us, and we're going to run into bad weather. And it sounds like that bridge should be done this year. So
yeah, let's do it.
I feel like I'm in cash cab. Take the money. I don't want to double it. I'm getting out.
Vote on this now as a motion. I think we probably do, right?
It would probably be good if we had a motion.
Yeah,
for this.
I mean, Joan, obviously, if you can get more money or negotiate, I see stuff suggesting we negotiate, great. But otherwise, I don't see that we have a choice. I think we do it.
Right.
Okay, so I guess I'll make a motion. Let me see if I can figure this out. That the Board of Supervisors authorize the Township Manager to move forward with implementing the Hess Mill Bridge project at a cost of $180,000 to the township and a cost of $272,000 paid by the county.
Sorry, there we have some noise there.
Don't make me repeat it.
The last part.
Okay, $180,000 to the township and $272,000 paid by the conservation district.
Okay.
Seconded by.
John, you should second it. It's your project.
I'll second it. I didn't have my mute button on. I'll second.
Okay. All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Okay, motion carries 5-0. Now I'm sneaking in a real quick one on Ford Farm. Do we need to vote on cutting the grass at Ford Farm? Or Joan, do you have the budget in the mowing thing already?
But Nancy, there is money for mowing and we could cut the Ford Farm as needed. And if I find that account is
Depleted?
I can come to the board and in a meeting, we can move some funds.
Terrific, yeah. I mean, people have been piecing that together for years and years and years, and you can see how much of the public uses it. Ticks and Lyme are a big problem. You know, I think it's time for the township to step up. Okay, any public comment?
I had a couple of public comments. This is Brent again.
Hey, Brent.
Hey, Brent.
Hi. With the FSA, we were chartered with a number of requirements that we were told that we had to meet. One of those was that we needed to report directly to the board of supervisors.
Right.
So when you were talking about changing that, I think it might throw in some issues if we're not following the rules that we were chartered for.
So so you had two issues. So before you go on, I'd like to hear what you have to say about that, because the reason I proposed that, so you know, is I wanted to make the communication flow make sense, right? So I want to hear what your concern there is if the FSA and the Park and Rec group work together on park improvements, what your issue there would be.
Oh, I don't really have any issues with any of that. My only concern was that, you know, with the FSA, we have a lot of rules and regulations that we have to follow.
Yep.
And they're quite extensive. And if we don't follow those, it can become an issue with the township.
Right.
And I just don't want that to be an issue with the township. That,
no, I agree.
You know, if we stop doing something that we were told we were supposed to do and it was written that way, and somebody comes back and says, you didn't follow your procedures correctly, and that gets us into trouble. I just didn't want to get us into trouble is all.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess one of the reasons, and this is why public comment's important, is we have these discussions in real time. So when I bring forth an idea, this is where it happens. So I'm glad that you were able to bring it up, because one of the considerations that I had, and the reason I brought it up, was I didn't want, here's my concern, Brent, and because you're an FSA member, I'm going to take the time to mention it. Sorry for everyone who's past their bedtime. Is, you know, you guys do a ton, and I don't want to minimize it, a lot of work in the parks, right? You guys are a service. And so you do, you know, trail clearing, and when a log falls over, you fix that, you pull weeds out. And the Park and Rec group is going to also do the same thing, right? And so I wanted to make sure that the two groups are talking to each other and making sure that they're integrated. And so that's why one of the things that we as a board advocated for was to make sure there was an FSA representation on the pro board. Because we have those two disparate groups. And so I think, and I think Nancy and Donna and whoever, we all talked about this, is like, let's forget what I said and move forward with the two groups and see how it works. And and then before anyone gets too heated, we come back to the board and say, okay, well, this isn't working, we got to fix it. So that's kind of where I'm at, is I just don't want two groups fighting each other over mowing lawns and clearing and
I think it's important to remember as well that the FSA is, there is a safety issue. So I think it's important that they do report to the board and that we have a close connection with them.
From a consistency standpoint, all the subcommittees typically report to the board, so that's where I would be. It's just my comment. I don't have a strong feeling one way or the other, but this thing should come to the board.
Okay, Brent, you had one more.
Yeah, I had a couple. Very, very early on in the meeting, Nancy, you had said that certain properties were brought forward to you for conservation, and you said no.
That's right.
I don't remember seeing. I mean, when did this happen?
Well, nothing formally ever came forward. So there was never a formal request. So we couldn't formally talk about it. But there was kind of a questioning as in, well, one residence wanted two wanted the township to buy their property outright. And we just don't do that. We haven't ever done that. So it didn't get to the community level, but if we'd had a park and rec or a pro committee, I think that would have been a very good place for them to discuss it.
Okay, I'll try to be quick with my questions. With the Parks and Rec, you said that they were going to have a budget to deal with as they see fit. So what is their budget?
Well, it's not as they see fit. So they will make recommendations on what they want to spend, but it has to come back to the board. And there's already money in the park fund based on the way our taxes are collected. So there's already money there for, and Joe will know what that number is. I don't know what it is off the top of my head.
And I don't envision moving any money if that's what we do until we redo our budget at the end of the year.
Yeah, I was just concerned for Sunshine, if they have a budget of $50,000 that, they can make a decision to spend $50,000 on something. That's a lot of money towards one company to do one thing and it not be discussed or publicly shown before the decision's made.
Well, anything would come to the board. Any
Okay, then I misunderstood. I apologize. I thought it was said that they were going to have budget to work with, but I misunderstood that.
Yeah.
There is a park budget, but it's going to have to come here for what they would like to do with it. And also just for Brent, I think you know this, they're kind of like your planning commission is, their meetings will be public and they'll have to issue a report that they bring to the board. So that will all be available for the public.
Right. And then Jim, I know you have a question about what's the safety issue with the FSA. Well, it's not the group, but it's hunting, and we don't close our parks to residents when there's hunting. So you have, people hiking and hunters. So it's more important to make sure that, like you guys have that good rule about you hang the tag up when you go in the park. Things like that are important when you're mixing 2 or 3 different things together and guns are part of it.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that so clear for myself, I can't speak for anyone other than the board, was, one of the first things that I did when I was made a supervisor is I went to an FSA meeting and was very impressed with how the FSA conducts themselves. Like it is a great group. We have a really good attendance. And so if, anything that I proposed today, and I was trying to explain it to Brent, is we're doing this in real time because I can't formulate the thought with this group outside of a board meeting. So I kind of think about it on my own and then I talk about it. So it's not to minimize the FSA. It's not to reduce their ability to do what they do. I think it's a good, solid group and I want to be on the record. I support them. But when we have another Parks and Rec group who says, we want to clear a trail or we want to do that, the only thing I'm saying is you guys do some of that work. So let's just figure out a way for people to work together. So the point is not to feel defensive. It's that we have different groups of people who use the parks. How do we get them to work together so they're not in conflict, right? Like that's sort of where I landed, and I'm doing it in real time. So you guys all get to hear my crazy, ill-conceived suggestions sometimes. So, and that's why we have this discussion now.
Dave, I understand your comments, but Nancy said there was a safety issue. We've been, FSA has been around for 10 years. It's never been an issue.
No.
Safety.
With hunting in general, with hunting and hiking and biking all taking place together and not closing the park against the other two. You all know all sorts of stories of people getting shot, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not the FSA, it's the very act of hunting and hiking and biking and doing those things together in a short period of time. So it's a choice we've made not to close the park to those other activities, unlike Spring Lawn, where they just say, no, you're not coming in, you're not gonna hike while the hunters hunt. So there's always a safety issue, clearly, you know.
So it's a potential safety issue. I got you.
Potential.
Yes.
That's a good way to put it.
I gotta find my calendar. Yeah, there it is.
Yeah. Okay. So any other questions?
I did have a question about because the contract thing kind of confused me. So you have a written contract that only goes, does it go by year or what is it? Because when you talk about rebidding a contract, I'm assuming it's specific work that's been already obligated and now you want to rebid it. Is that not the case?
I don't know what the right terminology is, but we want to bid anew, okay? So the contract ends this year. Now in the past, it's just been renewed automatically year by year.
Okay, so it's not rebidding, it's just that you're not renewing the existing contract.
Maybe that's a good way to
Okay, that's not rebidding. So I thought he was already under obligation and contracted to do the work for next year and you were going to rebid it. Not the case, that's fine.
Yeah.
I just wanted to understand.
Okay.
The contract expires this year.
Thank you, Joan.
Yeah, and I'm very familiar with reinstating especially maintenance type contracts and renewing those year after year just because it's convenient and it has been convenient. And I have to say, with all the organizations I've been in, that is a common thing. Not everything is bid every year. All of the DOTs tend to do multi-year type contracts when it involves one thing, like if it's maintenance of one thing, like guardrail, they'll contract with one company to do that for multiple years.
Okay, right.
Yep.
All right, thanks, Brent.
Yeah.
Any other comments, questions, thoughts? All right. Well, thanks for hanging with us, folks. This was probably a record, I guess.
This was a corker.
Yeah, I'm going to adjourn the meeting at 10:47 p.m. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.